Recruitment.com and set the hook. Every Sunday, Captain Crash guides you to
break Crash's heart today.
beyond the breakers. Come aboard for smooth sailing.
He likes some. He loves something, and I was like, What does he love? He loves something that.
All right, good Monday morning. Who's ready to have a little fun today?
I'm ready.
Post NFL draft. We are post Husker spring football, post Husker Carnival. We are now another day after a weekend of scintillating playoff action in the NBA and the NHL, which has had 9 overtime games.
Except for the Bucks. They're going to 1, 2, 3
man.
Cancun.
Yeah, but Father Time.
Yeah.
God dang. Dame in his prime. What has happened to him in Milwaukee? And then last night, what appears to be a torn Achilles.
That's what I figured.
But a busy sports weekend. We are here to talk about it for the next 4 hours. And also to tell you that if you did not know this, I'm here to tell you that Bill Belichick's current girlfriend
is crazy, is controlling, has a lot more power than we anticipated.
Well, her previous boyfriend, prior to Bill Belichick, was 64 years old.
We all have our types.
Sugar daddy. Sugar daddy. That was a very bizarre CBS This Morning. I love that show.
Good thing we had a Hims ad before this show.
Well,
hot take. Actually good. Actually good that her previous boyfriend was 64 years old. Actually, it's actually a good thing. It's actually a positive thing that she dated a former senior citizen before dating her current senior citizen.
Okay. Because you're relatively young.
Sure.
I would not call 64
Isn't
a
65?
senior citizen.
Isn't 65 officially
not today, man. You don't know if you're going to be able to get that Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
I would keep working.
I thought 65
Belichick
was like
is in his 70s.
number.
He's working.
Look at Bill Snyder. He coached till he was 200.
I would not call them a senior citizen. Maybe a silver slugger.
Okay, silver slugger. Fair enough.
You are so disrespectful to the
I am
olds.
not.
He's
65
I thought
years
that
old
too.
is literally at the
Every
movie.
single day. Like we've gone from being
not true.
disrespectful to the people that are in their 40s to now people that are in their 60s.
That's not true.
If they're older than 25,
when you go to the movie theater, 65 years old is the age in which they start giving you discounts for your tickets.
Because they should. You put in a life of hard work on
only
this
have so long
planet.
left.
Yeah, you should get a discount.
It literally is called the senior citizen discount at 65 years old.
I'm not calling him a senior citizen.
Okay.
I'll be there before you will.
It's good that she's dated a 60-year-old before dating Bill Belichick. And
Why?
the reason why is because we can now say, well, this isn't like her being a full gold digger or anything like that. She clearly just has a type. That her type is 60-year-olds. The girl, you like what you like. Some people like vanilla. Some people like strawberry. Some people like people their own age. Some people like 60-year-olds.
He really needs to go to Bonefish on Wednesday. He will have a newfound respect for the older members of our great community.
I'm just saying she's got it. It's good.
And he might just be the sugar mama.
Type. Oh, it's whatever. Mm-hmm. There's no ulterior motive.
No, just I think a little sugar daddy here. Little sugar daddy.
It's a little bit more than a sugar daddy now, because at least in my opinion, the sugar daddy is like, oh, here's just the money, here's this, here's that. They just give you a lot of things in return for something later, right? Where in this case, she's literally running Bill Belichick LLC or some COO and is like practically the associate athletic director at the University of North Carolina now. And she's going to be Miss Maine.
Huh? Well, good on her.
Do you say Maine or May? There's a difference.
She is viral another day. There's also a weekend of bad takes from the White House to ESPN personalities on the NFL draft. The one particular person in the NFL draft who is such a huge draw and a celebrity with power in Shedeur Sanders. Also, what if you are a J-Sker waking up on this fine Monday morning?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Because you have hung 2 off-season banners. You've hung one for football,
yes,
and you've now hung another one for basketball after Blake Harper, the baller from Howard, has transferred to Creighton. We'll get into that as we come to you on a Monday morning. With Jimmy, with Matt, I'm Gary. I'm very disappointed in you this morning.
Why? What?
Because it'd be funny if there was nothing else to that. You just moved like that's it.
Yeah, we just
951-1620.
I am so unhappy with you. And then in the NBA yesterday,
because I thought you would wear something that you got from the garage sale. I was fired up to see what you got.
It's actually why I got up this morning,
from
Matt.
The garage sale.
You got a Bears?
No, these sweatpants.
Patagonia hat.
These sweatpants. These black. No Nebraska logo anywhere, no nothing, just a regular pair of black Adidas sweatpants that you would buy at like Target or Kohl's.
Shout out Target.
$10.
Okay, goodbye.
Yeah. Yes. So, and then I also
got. But what time did we get there?
Okay. So this is the crazy part, guys.
Inside Baseball. I checked Twitter Saturday morning because we were wondering.
4:30 was the first person in line.
That's crazy. So I told you guys that I was going to try and get there at 8. I didn't think I had to set an alarm, considering the fact that I wake up very early every day.
Amateur.
I woke up at 7:20, and so I couldn't get on the road until about like 7:45.
Okay.
So I was standing in line at 8:45. So I was there 15 minutes before the gate opened. If you are aware of how the Hawks Championship Center is built, it's down
or GBR.
It's down Salt Creek Road. I was like all the way down past the parking, like all the way to the light from like I was
You're across the street from the Devaney Center.
Yes, a long ways away.
You're lucky you got those pants.
Long ways away from I am. So I had to wait an hour. I got there at 8:45. I didn't get in until 10:15. So I waited an hour and a half. Okay. I didn't fully get out, like checked out until 11:15. So I was in there for an hour. I got these pairs of pants for $10. I got a pair of practice basketball shorts that I don't know from what year they're from, but they're cool.
What's the logo?
Yeah, it is a Nebraska logo. So it's a big N.
Is it a script? Oh, it's just the N.
You were thinking what I was thinking.
It's a big N. Yeah. It's like red. It's like 2 different shades of red that are combining with each other, and it says it's got a nice little patch, and it says celebrating Black history. Celebrating Black heritage is what it says. So I think it's like a
2 years ago.
Yeah, Black History Month. If I had to guess, it's either game worn shorts or practice shorts, but they're really cool.
How much do they cost?
$10.
Okay.
And then I got a pair of Stan Smith shoes, Stan Smith gray Recon shoes. Very nice. They're a little bit too big for me, but they're very cool. They were $25. So I got a pair of shorts, pair of pants, pair of shoes. $50, and then on top of that, 2 cups, a mug, and 2 posters.
Well, cups as in drinking, or cups as in protection?
two John Cook 2019 volleyball season souvenir cups.
Yeah,
a proper like Nebraska mug and then two
good for you.
posters, one from the 2001 Husker football team,
Nice.
and one, it's like a scoring explosion Johnny Rogers poster.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it a schedule poster or just a tribute to the
I
Jets?
saw an
think it was-
83 poster on
I
the
haven't
Twitter.
fully looked at it, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest. I think it's this year's schedule. They were just free, and I was being really efficient, so I just grabbed it, rolled it up. I had like it's since broken, but I had a rubber band, and so I
Yeah.
wrapped it around and I started running. Dude, I was like chicken with my head cut off. Like
Well-
I was running around everywhere. By the time I got in, just for reference,
Mm-hmm.
I got in line 15 minutes before it even opened. And when I got in there, almost everything cool was gone. Like I was at the last part of the barrel in terms of getting, there was still cool stuff. Like I saw people still kind of walking around with jerseys and whatnot.
Mhm.
And like the shoe area
Yeah.
was pretty good. That the hats were all still there. So if you wanted a cool hat, a lot of people got hats, but I was like scraping the bottom of the barrel when I finally got in.
So the first person was in line at 4:30. So I've heard mixed reviews. I had friends that were just a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah.
And Caleb was
there's-
6:30.
There's some lessons to be learned, I think.
There
about
definitely
putting
are.
up some parameters, because what I
Yes.
heard, and I'm very curious today. So we were both at the you went to the garage sale. I did not.
Yeah.
We were both at the game or the carnival.
Or
So
the
I'm
Hunger
I'm
Games.
curious now for people that were there, and the night culminated with showing you why Nebraska's a volleyball school. What happened at the Bob, the John, or the Terry, whatever they're calling it these days. Is
You should just combine the three. We're playing at the BJT, playing at the Bob, John, and Terry.
that's a good one. There's a lot of mixed reviews on. There's some people that are angry. There's some people that are disappointed.
Yeah.
I think the people that had the best day, first and foremost, was the players.
Yes.
That whole day was geared towards the players and their prevailing theme, which is competition and having fun. And if you were a player, you had fun.
Mhm.
I think, and for friends of mine that went because it's what they do, their kids had a great time.
Yeah.
The football person, even though you got to see a little football, probably hated the day.
Yeah.
Because the football was okay, but it didn't tell you anything.
No.
But if you were a player and you had kids, I think you enjoyed the day. So I will be curious as we go throughout our 4 hours with y'all, people's opinions if you were there,
Sure.
because not a lot of you were there. It was very startling to me. It felt like, I tweeted this out, it felt like the COVID year outside the stadium.
That's not good.
So I went and did our Husker show over at the Single Barrel. So
Yeah.
parked in South Stadium parking lot and then walked over. And so I'm walking through downtown. Nobody's outside of bars, Embassy Suites in the dock.
Yeah.
Nothing going on there. Very few people were on the streets. And I made my way through campus just, to be nerdy and
Sure.
walk through that beautiful campus. And then walking back from, it's at the Graduate Hotel, so you kind of know where it's at.
Sure.
So we walk about 5-6 blocks back to the stadium, and you're walking down Stadium Drive, and there was nobody.
It's got to be
Nobody.
so weird.
So the COVID, I don't know if you
I was
went
here.
to games, if you went to games or not.
I did not go to
Okay,
games.
so in the COVID year, you would go and you would park in the parking garage directly across the street.
Yeah.
You'd take the elevator down, you'd walk across the street, and there was nobody, and you'd have no idea that a major college football game was going on in Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
So the atmosphere outside was very, very muted, unless you walked a little bit further
Sure.
earlier in the day and you're down by the Hawks Championship Center, where that was where all the buzz was.
Mhm.
And then inside of the stadium, and you get so used to, and I do this even in the fall for the state high school football, you get so used to seeing that stadium packed
Yeah.
that when it is not packed and it looks like the COVID crowd with cutouts, or like a good Class A crowd where a Lincoln team is playing, so there's probably going to be more people
Sure.
there, that to see a pretty much an empty Memorial Stadium, that's when it hits you and you're like, ooh, this is a little bit different. But again, it was for the players. I think if you had kids, you enjoyed it. I think they have to. They'll do a deep dive on how it went, and in terms of the competitions and the things they did and the timing and all of that stuff. I mean, there were a lot of moving parts that were going on, but I'm curious to hear people's thoughts that were there, what they thought, and what it might look moving forward. Because I think there's only three options.
I
think there's the option
go
of
ahead.
that format stays the same because Rule likes it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the format of not doing anything,
Sure.
And then there's the one of if the NCAA allows you to play another team in a scrimmage, go that route, or wait until the fall and have people spend money the first Saturday of fall camp and have a scrimmage. And look, there'll be 60, 70,000 people in there if it's a scrimmage.
There would be a lot of people if there was in their first scrimmage. And if it was a part of what, like, their practice, like if it was basically, hey, we're going to have a practice, we're going to do this anyway, we're just going to put it in front of a bunch of fans, I think that would work out. Now, so Dannon did talk to Husker Online, and Steve Sipple wrote an article about it and talked about how that is something that he thinks they're going to move forward to in terms of practicing with another team and having another team come to Memorial Stadium, or Nebraska going elsewhere and doing 2-3 days worth of practice, which, look, the NFL does it. And we're at the point where if the NFL does it, college football is probably going to do it. And I think that event, now, I don't think you necessarily have to have a scrimmage with another team. Like, I think that if you had another team come in and play Nebraska at Memorial Stadium, you could get away with just doing, hey, we're going to do one-on-one drills. We're going to have our top wide receivers go against our top corners. We're going to have some blocking drills. We're going to do, hey, we'll play 7-on-7. Like, you don't have to do a full 100% live, like, just in case a team doesn't want to risk injury. I think you could get way more just doing a regular practice than you did at the Husker games if you were to practice with another team. But I don't think it was like, I saw some reaction on Twitter about people not liking the Husker games and acting as if it was like a complete dud. And
it was awkward.
It was a little
awkward.
weird.
And I think if you were coming for the football, you were
very disappointed.
And you probably would not do it again.
No.
But I bet your kids had fun.
But I do think that the format is there. Like, I do think that if they sat down and they planned a couple more things out and they kept it a little more concise and they were a little bit more organized on the field, and got to things, hit points a little quicker and presented them a little bit more efficiently. Like, I think there's something there. I do think there's some meat on that bone if you want to go that route. I prefer, and I think everybody would prefer, them practicing against another team or scrimmaging against another team without a doubt. But I
think they would have taken doing what they did with the football stuff, but maybe mixing in the ones play a series or two.
It was after the first two series of live football, when that third series of live football came around, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really care. Like, I wasn't paying a lot of attention,
You saw they wanted to get through the football to get to the competition.
Yeah.
And again, competition's a key word with this team. Very, very vanilla. Everything was kind of basic, about 3 or 4 run plays.
Yeah.
The quarterbacks were live. Well, there were a couple times quarterback got crushed. But it was like, okay, this is kind of in the way of let's have a bench press competition, or this is what happened.
I mean, they didn't really do the fourth series of football. They basically skipped the fourth series.
So, who was it? It was Rule. So, end of the first, I guess, quarter.
Yeah.
They couldn't flip the field, and Rule says over the PA, we can't because there's a tractor in the way. And so they were getting ready for the tractor pull. They couldn't, it was just.
They were unorganized at times. But it's a tough thing to put together.
Yeah, thank you for saying. I mean, don't crush them.
No, I'm not crushing them.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
It's a really tough thing.
And it was learning as you go. But I'm guessing if you went on Saturday and they presented it to you next year that it was going to be the same thing, you would probably elect not to go, because there were fellow media members. Fellow media members that were like, why are we covering this?
Sure. And I had the same conversations with people, and at times, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought that from point to point, watching like as a joke, but like a little bit seriously, when Heinrich Harburger's riding a mechanical, electronic horse trying to rope another bull that's, electric, you're like, all right, what are we doing here? You know what
real
I'm saying?
bulls next year?
But like, also,
hey, I was just blown away by the mechanical bulls and the cow. And I'm like, the way they're handling it and the way they can make sharp turns.
You wanted to watch Urban Cowboy.
You wanted to ride it, didn't you?
I was like, you know what? A little practice. I think I might be able to do that.
I
think the wing eating contest was probably the most exciting thing that went on.
And
then they had the media catching punts.
The media catching punts was pretty fun. I think for 10 minutes they should just let the quarterbacks try and throw a football through a basketball hoop.
Well,
like that was something. That was quite cool. I did get a little concerned though when they couldn't hit the targets during the quarterback challenge.
We'll talk about that.
That was concerning.
15, who is the face of Nebraska football and is everywhere. I mean, he played quarterback in the flag football game.
Yeah, I know.
They need to keep him upright.
The
Human Victory Cigar. Nice story. We root for stories. I root for, if your QB1 goes down, that you do not fall into the Grand Canyon.
That bad?
Well, it's just
Jimmy. They couldn't hit the targets.
Yeah,
it was a standing. It was
the only guy that could was Dylan.
It was a standing little like boxing dummy or like a tackling dummy basically, and they
just run the ball.
They had a tough time hitting them, and once again, it's not against live competition, so I'm not going to buy into it and be like and freak out or whatever. But I do want to point out, it's worth pointing out.
Go ahead and point out, it wasn't just missing; it was like, okay. And there was no pass rush, none of that. Now, Dylan is on point, and I'm sure he's done a lot of those competitions, Elite 11, those kind of things. But it just – and then
you could tell
the young quarterbacks that played, that are scholarship quarterbacks, they need reps. They got big boy arms, I will say that.
Yeah.
They got big boy arms, and they weren't playing with a great wide receiver core.
There's really only one they were willing to throw to.
But Dylan's stock went up on Saturday of this guy – has to be the guy and also has to stay healthy, which, I think we were lucky enough that he played 13 games last year. All right, if you were there, I can't imagine if you weren't there, like, did you try and grab information? Because a lot of us weren't really like tweeting because there was really nothing to tweet about football stuff.
Yeah, Dylan Raiola was calling plays for the offense. I thought that was pretty cool that he had a play sheet and a walkie-talkie there. Like that was,
you're right. He does everything.
Like
he is. He's quirky.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the day where he goes to basketball games, not with the athletic director, but maybe some teammates or friends. But he is, and it's. Yeah, I haven't seen a quarterback like this. Dylan is everywhere. Okay, he'll sign autographs. He'll talk to the fans. Again, he played quarterback in their flag football game. Midland is a wagon. Their women's flag football team, which I think is going to Kansas City this week or next week to be in the Nationals. They are an absolute wagon.
They're incredible.
For Nebraska, we need to make it go from club to something organized, and then we need to start recruiting. But I got thoughts on flag football because flag football might be the answer to some of our problems, not all of our problems.
Sure.
But Dylan honestly is everywhere.
He knows where the camera is. He knows where the camera is.
He does.
But at the same time, I will say this, because I think that people, like when I say that, they might find it like he's disingenuous, right? When you see him interact with his teammates, when he's talking to his wide receivers, when he's hanging out with Heinrich Harburg, it is all smiles. It is all laughs. It is all like, you can tell that he is liked amongst his teammates and he likes his teammates. Yes. Did he grab the rope from Heinrich and there just happened to be the entire television crew from all of Lincoln and other surrounding parts of Nebraska right in front of him when he was whipping around the rope? Yeah. Did he know it was there? Probably. Was he still talking to all of the other guys, having a great time with them? Yeah. Like both can be true. Knows where the camera is, but he's clearly enjoyed by his teammates.
All right. 402-951-1620. Because this is a couple years ago. Frost's last spring game, they did a thud up, and
it was terrible.
And fans were livid. They filled up Trev Albert's email and his voicemail, and they had a discussion about what they were going to do at the spring game. So the first year of Rule, Trev said, "Hey, we got to try and play some real football, not a Stableford scoring system, not thud up. Can you give me some real football?"
Mm-hmm.
So fans have a voice, and so fans will have a voice in this because they will grab a lot of feedback on what they can do. But I think what they did on Saturday is what they want to do moving forward, and they're going to tweak it a little bit, and they actually might have more carnival type stuff and less football stuff, and then find a way if they can have it on a weekend where baseball and softball are home at the same time, and continue with the volleyball portion and the women's soccer portion as well. And also get out in front where they promote it more that, hey, the wrestling team is on the concourse signing autographs. I mean, they've got some work to do.
But I do think I could see why people did not enjoy the event. I could see why, it's a little disappointing. There wasn't the atmosphere. There wasn't like what you typically expect. When you expect something when you step into Memorial Stadium, right? Like there is a expectation and there's a connection there. And I don't think you were fully able to fulfill that connection through this event. At the same time, I think they can make this something if they want to. I think the best option...
And they can make it something, and then you have to go with the mindset that we're going to be capped at about 10,000 that would show up.
Yeah, it was weird. It was looking at the people within the stadium. I had never seen the stadium that empty to the point where I couldn't really give you a guess of how many people were in this. Like, seriously, I was like, I don't really know the dimensions of this other than it being completely full.
They did not release anything, and they won't. 8,000 is what generally was there. Damn,
I wonder what it was. I mean, I don't know.
There's not too long ago, a spring game was sold out.
I know. That's... I think that if they market it up and they tweak it a little bit, it could be something that can be enjoyed. But I don't think you're ever going to get close to like 50, 60,000 people for something like that. No, not at all.
All right. We'll also about the garage sale, because they'll get feedback of the people that went to buy stuff to resell stuff at the garage sale on Saturday.
I cannot believe, like, I'm going to tell you something right now. That's another incredibly difficult event to run in terms of all the stuff that they had out there, all the people that showed up, all the tables that were there. And I think it's Nebraska athletics hoping that, hey, people are going to be in terms of like understanding that this is a fun event mainly meant for people to go and grab memorabilia from their favorite teams and whatnot.
Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff we got to get rid of.
I wish I mean that too, but I wish there were some parameters there, because there were some people who were literally I was told from people who were there when the event started, who, worked for the team, that there were people were there with garbage bags, and they were just shoving stuff into these garbage bags and cardboard boxes. And there were people with wagons, and they weren't there necessarily to pick up one or two things for grandma and mom. They were there to make a buck, which is fine. It's annoying for someone like me who just wanted to grab a couple of things and go, but it is what it is. I mean, that's an event though that I don't think they have any more stuff to do that year in and year out.
No, because was the first time in about 10 plus years that they've done.
There was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they cleaned out. They had 7 box trucks on Friday that showed up at the Hawks Championship Center.
That's crazy.
That they put in there. Yeah, just a note, if you missed the John Cook bobblehead giveaway, just go to Facebook Marketplace and you'll be able to find new bobbleheads that are up online.
Yeah.
So there were people that were buying to resell. We'll get into all of that stuff that happened over a busy sports weekend. You can join the show, 402-951-1620. If you were at the Husker games, if you just went to the garage sale, or you went to volleyball, which is electric.
What they've built there, it's a spring game. It's a literal scrimmage. It's an exhibition. And you had the tickets were sold out in the morning.
That's the new spring game.
Watch when they go to Ord this weekend.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely awesome.
Isn't Danny Busboom Kelly due on May 1?
I don't know. I would have no clue.
Wow.
That would be this week.
They are rock stars, absolute rock stars, and bigger than men's basketball when it comes to attention and people wanting to spend their money.
I think it's pretty damn close. But
the fact that you say it's close,
it's absolutely
shows
incredible.
I'm not gonna take a dig at men's basketball. I'm gonna pump up Nebraska volleyball. The Nebraska volleyball has become this beast, and its connection with the fan base and also the success that they've had, that it has become like a gigantic thing. And if you were like, I see a lot of players are returning in DBK's first year, I wonder what they'll be like. They did not do a good job of tampering down the enthusiasm, because right out of the box, they look good. They look good. Meet me in Kansas City in December, boys and girls.
They got freshmen now too, who look absolutely incredible. I mean, Ryan Hunter was really, really impressive. And now you got Andy Jackson coming from the back row. Somehow she looks more dominant and physically athletic than she did like a previous last year, which is absolutely crazy. And then you got competitions between really, really good players for very important spots.
You can drop us an email into the Equitable Bank inbox, Gary at 1620thezone.com or Matt at 1620thezone.com. Also on Twitter at Gary Sharp 1620, at Matt McMedia. Those are the ways to get in touch with the show as we roll till 10. I do want to mention before we go to a break, of all the stuff that went on this weekend, and we are waking up in Omaha this morning, and we have a giant hole in our sports community. I think everybody's got a Bill Olsen story. And Bill Olsen, who is a legend in the baseball community in this town and in this state and baseball period, passed away over the weekend at the age of 85. Incredible family. Got to know when I moved back to Omaha, Coach Olsen a little bit. Him and my dad, because my dad had this area when he was scouting for the Mets, got to know Coach Olsen really, really well. And then when I moved back here, I got to know Coach Olsen a little bit more. And of course, his son, Greg, who pitched for him in the dominant Omaha Northwest teams, won 6 state titles. They were the best team in all of high school baseball in 1983. His son went on to be the American League Rookie of the Year with the Orioles. Now he has a son that played at Auburn, came here for the College World Series. But Bill and his wife, Sandy, just incredible people. And when I heard the news that Coach Olsen had passed away, it hit me like many others because, again, everybody has a Bill Olsen story where maybe you played for him, you played against him, but an incredible teacher, whether it be bunting the baseball or pitching, he was everywhere. And people that are my age and younger and a little bit older, Bill Olsen probably had some impact on your life. And one of the best moments I've had living here in Omaha is, and this is kind of sad because 3 of the 4 people have passed on. A good friend of mine, Tom Corator, who a lot of people know is a local broadcaster who passed away a couple of years ago. Tom Corator, Bill Olsen, John Stella, who's also a legend in the Omaha baseball community who has passed on, and Herb Kupfer were all at the Hy-Vee on 50th and Center. And I walked in there and they were all sitting having breakfast. And Coach Olsen said, "Sit down." And so I sat down and we talked baseball for 2 hours. Wow. And they just told stories after stories after stories. And what Coach Olsen did for the people that played for him and anybody that wanted to learn baseball, that went to his camps, just an incredible impact on the sport of baseball in the city of Omaha, the Omaha Northwest community. The baseball stadium is named after him, rightfully so. That's a major loss. And I can't get enough stories about people talking about what he did. I read one last night, where he would teach bunting at his camp.
Yeah.
So he went and worked for Creighton, and then he was out at Strike Zone when he was done coaching at Omaha Northwest. This person was telling a story that at his baseball camp, when they were teaching bunting, he would put baseball cards out in front of home plate.
Okay. And
so if you bunted and you did it properly and it landed on a baseball card, you got to keep that baseball card.
That's awesome.
But you learned how to bunt, right?
Yeah.
That's what Coach Olsen was what was like and what he did, and over 1,500 wins. But those are secondary,
Mm-hmm.
the impact that he made. So if you're waking up to that news, yes, major loss in our Omaha sports community. And I'm sure there'll be some incredible tributes because everybody has a Bill Olsen story. All right, off and running on a Monday. We're back with more Gary and Matt after this. All right, on this Monday morning, the last week of April, prepare yourself here in the Omaha area. And, there are people like to have a little jokey joke with the weather.
Yeah.
There could be severe weather between 2 and 5 today, and this is a severe threat you should take seriously.
87 before, so that's...
And this is something that even on Thursday... National Weather Service local meteorologists were predicting that Monday afternoon could be a severe weather day. So just please plan accordingly.
Okay.
Thank you. And keep 1620 The Zone on the app.
Your weather leader.
I don't know over the air if we'll be able to withstand the storm, but we'll be there for you.
I want to let you know, thank you, because I don't really check the weather. Like, I'm not the biggest weather dude. I wear the same things every day regardless. I really don't. I'm not in tune with what is going on in terms of
you live in a fun place for weather.
Well, I just work, and then, weatherman over here tells me exactly what I have to look out for. And so previous to that, I had no clue that we were going to have a massive storm from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Now I know I'm not going anywhere from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. So thank you, Weatherman Gary.
Rest of the week looks gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, sometimes we go, the Omaha Dome. But this is one to take serious because on Thursday they were already pinpointing this. All right, a couple of thoughts here. Text and social media and emails about the Husker games and the garage sale.
Yeah.
Again, if you weren't able to get to the garage sale, you could go online. You could buy some stuff that was being resold, but not surprising.
Not surprising at all. And really nothing you can do about it. You knew it was going to happen.
Could they put parameters on it?
I think it would be so hard because you would have to have multiple, 20 people with how big it was and how much gear they had. You would have to have about 20 different people policing people and being like, nope, you can only take one. Nope, you got to put that back. Nope, you got to walk all the way back around. I think it would be absolutely exhausting for the people who would have to police that in order for them to do it.
Chris tweets in, and Gary Sharp 1620, the scrimmage wasn't great to watch, but if anyone wants a do-over, it's the Husker Radio Network. They tried to do play-by-play with Jessica and DB from the sideline. Didn't go so well. They should have done a live radio show with interviews and only give updates from the scrimmage. Doing the spring game, whether they're having a real game or not,
it's not fun.
Not good for radio or
hard.
TV because it is very difficult to do. I didn't know that they were doing play-by-play. I thought they did a lot of interviews. I think didn't they just do it basically as an extension of Sports Nightly?
They
were on the field.
I was not listening to it, but they were out there on the field the entire time, walking around, talking to people, interacting with people. The looks that I got every time I looked at Jessica Cootie and Damon Benning, they were laughing and they were giggling and they were having a good time. So it seemed like they were having a very informal, type Husker broadcast, which is some people love that.
No, that's what it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think your expectations for what you were going to see probably you had to dial back.
What I also too, did we fully expect an in-depth analysis play-by-play of the Target game or the punt is up. Is it in the target? Nope, it didn't hit it. Oh, Brett Maher hit a 50-yard field goal.
You know what? The whole day is fun.
Yeah.
Just in the radio broadcast, TV broadcast, whatever, the whole thing is presented as fun. Again, I heard from numerous people that took their kids. Their kids had a great time. They thought it was cool to see guys eat wings and stuff they don't normally see players. But if your kids were having fun, you know why? Because the players were having fun. Mm-hmm. That day was for the players as a culmination of a spring. I mean, those guys work hard in the winter. They work hard in spring. And that was a day to go out there with their teammates and compete once again, which you're going to hear that phrase in the offseason over and over and over, which is great, is competing. And it's not like guys were fake competing. Guys wanted to win stuff. And also there's a very subtle thing. You could kind of make outside of Caleb Benning, for example.
Sure.
You could kind of make out your depth chart now of guys that you know are going to play in the fall.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple of guys that played, but they're probably in the 1s and 2s, but they were out there. Is guys that were not playing that are frontline starters that were willing to jump in multiple competitions. Eli Pritchett is a guy that I think as we get to know and what he spoke to the media once here in the spring, I think we're going to like that guy. He's got a big personality. He's always smiling. But I saw him he was everywhere. He was jumping into. They already had predetermined who was in competitions, but he was in multiple competitions. And then he did something that I think is very subtle. Is when they got done with the tractor pull and the tire thing?
Yeah,
like some of the players just walked away, and so you have these staff members at Nebraska
who have to.
They can't lift that tire.
No, they are all small.
And I see Eli Pritchett run from about 25 yards away, and he jumps in with a couple of young ladies and starts moving the tire off the field. And I like watched him, and he was with teammates. He was in competition. It was,
it's the little things that matter.
Yeah, but it was for the players. It was for the players. It was competition, and they invited fans in to come in and watch.
It was a team field day that if you wanted to go and spend $10 to watch them have their field day, you could do that. And people went, and hey, there were some cheers when Dylan Raiola hit that threw a ball 45 yards into a basketball net. Everybody went crazy. Like everybody thought it was like the coolest thing of the day. Now, I'll tell you this right now. Henry Lutovsky, during the strongman competition, him absolutely repping out 225, and then his team got tired, and then after he did like what had to be close to 20-25 reps, steps back under the bar, finishes the last 4 reps to win the competition.
Cost Rule $130,000.
That's just guys being dudes.
Well, Lutovsky is almost since he showed up on campus, the tag on him has been he's the strongest guy on the team.
Yeah.
And he is a horse.
He is. He walked right by me.
A guy that could be starting at tackle on Thursday night at Arrowhead.
Mm-hmm. He walked right by me, and this was like post pump. Like he was barreling out there. Like he is a big guy. He is wide. He's just a wide human.
It's people we used to watch on ESPN with the logs that would.
Oh yeah. No, 1,000,000%. I mean, he's kind of built like that a little bit. Like he's got a bit of a Viking build, for being honest. Like he's got wide shoulders and just looks like he could crack open your skull at any point in time.
Which is a penalty.
I didn't shake his hand though. I kind of wanted to see how big his hands were to just get like, oh hey, nice to meet you or whatever. I wanted to see like what we're working with in terms. I'm a combine guy, so you learn a lot with the handshake of like, does this fully encapsulate my hand? Is he going to be able to get his hands out there and get a good inside grip? So I need to do that. I need to shake his hand.
The other observation is they have a ton of staff members, whether they be wearing a headset on Saturday or not.
It's like we were saying about NBA coaching staffs now.
They are a gigantic operation. I mean, the amount of people that are just with football, you've never seen like that at Nebraska before. Bob writes into the Equitable Bank inbox, must be a bad sign. Things are bad in the quarterback room when Rule is looking to bring in the winner of the Dr. Pepper Halftime Challenge to work with the backups on accuracy.
Yeah, I mean, we when the first couple quarterbacks went, it was like, all right, hey, this is the 5th quarterback, this is the 4th quarterback, no big deal. Then what we assumed was QB3 stepped up and started missing, and I was like, oh, okay. And then QB2, and then it was like, all right, dang. And then QB1 came up and hit his targets, and I was like, all right, thank God. like praise the Lord.
You got to keep him healthy.
But what was the stat? Last year, he was the first quarterback to play all 13 games since what?
Tanner Lee.
Okay.
The great Tanner Lee.
Good.
We're very, very, very fortunate that he got dinged midway through the year, but he played all 13 games. They need, not only because of his ability, but because of what's behind him, which is really unproven. They need him to play all 13 games. Matt writes in, I think Northern Iowa would be a good scrimmage partner. Dana was the AD there, and they are a good FCS school who could pay to come in and scrimmage.
They were here last year.
Are we doing a scrimmage or are we doing a practice? Like, what would you? Because if I'm being honest with you,
okay, so let's do this. Money makes the world go round.
Yeah,
and Trev said publicly, and he was the first to do this, that they net $1 million on the spring game.
Yeah.
Now, you have a new TV contract. So if you have to take $1 million out from the spring game, your extra TV money might make it a little bit easier.
Absolutely.
But you got to make money.
And you still have
you got to make money where fans feel like they're not being squeezed because they already feel like they're being squeezed.
Sure.
So your idea of making money when you say scrimmage or practice. I think you would say a joint get together. Because are you going to pay money to go watch guys just practice? But if they say, you know what, if you've ever been to a joint practice at NFL training camp, that's what we're going to do. There'll be some 11 on 11, 7 on 7. There'll be some lineman stuff. You'll see some practice things, but it's not going to be full on. We're going to put 60 minutes up on the clock and play football.
It depends on the team to me. If it's Iowa State, let's say they bring in Iowa State,
them again,
and they have a just practice, I would prefer that over a scrimmage.
Well, I don't think
against an FCS school.
I think though, you also have to think about this. If you're going to do that, would that just be closed?
Well, you know what?
Like the basketball ones.
So Dan had said in his interview.
We do it in volleyball. We just did it Saturday night. They're going to do it in Ord. You do it in basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the hesitancy from the NCAA is in green lighting it for football. Not everybody would do it.
Sure.
But the fact that Syracuse and Colorado were like, hey, we found dance partners. Let's put this together. It has to come from the top, but they allow it in other sports, and I don't know what the hang-up would be about football.
I think it's just that I think the NCAA denied it because they're just going through so much change that they just didn't want to deal with another changing headache
figure out how we
like
can make
more and
more
more teams like wanting to do that. Regardless of that, though, like Dannon brings up, and I think a lot of people like get nervous when they hear, oh, we got to find different forms of revenue. We got to find more ways to make money. But if you present like a fun activity or something that is enjoyable, I don't think people are going to mind that it's an additional part of revenue for the athletic department, because no matter what you do, more and more people want to consume football, right? So if you have a good football event, you're going to be able to generate revenue no matter what.
You're right.
And
messaging is important on what fans are going to get.
Yes.
But if you turn around and do this next year, even cleaning up some of the competition, I think you're capped at 10,000.
Probably.
Unless you really push the kid aspect, and kids are going to be involved, and they might be selected to perform with their favorite Husker or something like that. I don't think they'll turn it into a fan day because they keep that special in the fall. But I think if you do this, you're capped at 10,000.
I think you could get up if you added more outside of the Memorial Stadium aspect. Like you said, you already have a fan day in the fall, but if you added some of that stuff on the outside, maybe you get more, but probably just in terms of on the field product, 10 to 12,000.
All right, a little bit later, Evan Bland will stop by. He's got a thought or two on the football that he saw. There were a couple of highlights, mostly on the defensive side of the football. And will there be highlights this week of guys in the portal? Usually takes about 48 hours for the paperwork to go through. So today would be a day that you might hear a name if there is somebody in the portal. Mm-hmm. Or if you do the math and you looked at the roster and you're like, I don't see that guy on the sidelines. I like that offensive lineman. I like that defensive back.
Yeah.
Where'd they go?
Yeah.
Hour 2 coming up next. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back in. Gary and Matt with Jimmy. It's
Hi.
the week of the Kentucky Derby.
Yes, it is.
Just handed over to journalism. 3-1 opening odds, and he's going from the 8.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's your horse, Matt.
Journalism is a damn good pony. Burnham Square, damn good pony. Sandman, damn good pony. We'll have picks on Friday, obviously. This will
Can't wait.
this will be
Read the pamphlet. You got the pamphlet?
What is this pamphlet for those that are?
So Mike, who is a longtime listener of 1620, actually he got a promotion. He's
congratulations,
I
Mike.
saw
He's
that.
in charge of sensible gambling in the good life.
Well, how about that?
And so he is not happy with young
No,
Matt.
he sent a pamphlet to the front desk, which then got sent to Connor Happer, which has then been sent to me. I always carry the pamphlet. Okay.
Do you read the pamphlet?
No, I don't. I haven't
Is
read
there
the
like a-
pamphlet
a-
in some time.
That's the
because,
problem.
I actually, the NFL draft didn't go well for your boy, so didn't really do anything this weekend in terms of place the bets or anything
At
like
least your
that.
team had a good draft.
We had a fine
No,
draft.
no. Am I
It
gonna have to
was
do this
fine.
again?
It was fine.
I like what the Bears did.
It was fine.
Anybody in the draft, if you have a good quarterback, support your quarterback.
Wow, hot take. That's yeah. I mean,
Well, I'm out.
That's a crazy statement to make. It's almost as if we've never done that in the history of our football franchise, and then always ask
You have Jordan Love. Maybe support him with a wide receiver or two.
maybe. Or when you had Aaron Rodgers, maybe support him with a wide receiver or two. They're fine.
We're now on Aaron Rodgers' watch. So
We've been on Aaron Rodgers' watch for the last 2 months, and I'm absolutely sick and tired of being on Aaron Rodgers' watch. I don't give a damn.
Will this be the week though? Will he just say yes? The Steelers are my team.
I hope for
they
the
basically
Steelers'
basically said yes. He's our quarterback.
The NFL needs to
I
know
mean-
so he can do the schedule. Joey needs to know so he can do his schedule.
I that's a great point.
Get rid of
Jimmy.
get used to a lot of Cleveland Browns in the preseason.
I cannot believe that he has not signed yet, and I cannot believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are just basically working off of like a handshake right now, which is kind of what it seems like, that he's going to be their next quarterback. And if he ends up retiring, what the Steelers have done this offseason would go down as like the biggest QB blunder like offseason ever, because they had Wilson and they had Fields, and probably Fields would have been a very good re-sign for him to have a young quarterback and let him go. And then they had multiple chances to take Shedeur Sanders, which I know we'll get to it at some point, but regardless about how you feel about the family, he's still one hell of a quarterback prospect, period, end of story. And so the fact that they're just
Prospect is a good word. He's not a franchise quarterback.
No, he's a good prospect. He's a guy where in the second or third round, yeah, you take him and you hope that he can develop maybe a little bit more arm strength and poise in the pocket and whatnot, and be able to use his accuracy to be a good quarterback. But I cannot believe they're just placing all the trust in Aaron Rodgers. I mean, just it's one. If they end up not having a very good year this season, which I don't think they will, you're going to start looking around that Steelers organization being like, what have you guys actually been doing for the last decade?
Last time either one of you, what was your age? What was your call that you pranked somebody?
I never did a prank call. I never really prank called people growing up.
Because he didn't grow up before caller ID like we did.
Ding dong ditching. Did that up until I was like 11, I think was the last time. Like we went around the Sauganash neighborhood and ding dong ditch people. I never did in my own neighborhood. Like that's what people don't get. Like you never ding dong ditch your own neighbors, okay? Because then they actually get to like call your parents and get you in trouble, and then like they look down upon your family in the neighborhood. You go about
invited to
a half
parties
mile northwest to Sauganash, where you hit all those people's doorbells, and you just hope you don't hit one of your teachers, and you run like the wind.
It helped. We had a
93, I think, was the last time I did.
Yeah. I think like when you're like 12, and you find out that hey, let's call the grocery store. So
prank called the grocery store.
I called Hy-Vee. I called 2 prank calls that
It
I
was
remember.
different back then. They answered.
Yeah, you'd call like the customer service desk,
Okay,
and they'd pick up the phone, and you'd say, "Do you have Red Man in a can?" And they would say, "Well, let me check." They'd come back and they'd say, "Yes," and I'd say, "Let him out."
Showed her.
And then when you're
just
really
wasting time,
when
like
you're
that's just
when you're 12, and Olbricht's son was not wasting time. Which not only, so they called Shadur, they called Tyler Warren, and there was a lot of outrage for the call they made to Shadur. Okay, you're an idiot, okay, for doing that. But why wasn't there outrage like last year? There were guys that
Cooper
got
DeJean.
Yeah, there was no outrage last year. I wonder why. But I also called, when you're 12, okay, you're a little immature, and you think everything is funny because you're a kid that's starting to become a teenager, so you're reaching puberty. Again, everything is funny. So I called, what was the Merle Hay Lanes?
I would call I would go in like the yellow pages or like the blue book and like go ahead and like look for.
No, I wasn't calling like a random somebody like a number.
No,
I called the bowling alley, and
I feel like that's not fun places to prank call. I feel like you need to prank call people you know.
Wait till you hear what I said.
Okay, fair enough.
So they answer the phone and they're like, Merle Hay Lanes, and I say, how big are your balls? And then you hang up. Now I'm 12, so I thought that was really, really funny. But those are the only two prank calls.
Then they called back and told him.
Yeah. So, and then here's the thing.
Yeah. So when I was 13, I actually called this guy. His name was Kyle Fuller. And I told him that he got drafted by the 11th overall pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I was like, oh, nope, no, you didn't. And hung up on him.
Was Kyle your age?
No.
Oh.
No, Kyle Fuller was a cornerback for the Bears.
Okay.
But we got to see the video of Shadur taking the call, and then the guys at Ole Miss. Why is everything that is upside down happen at Ole Miss?
Lane,
you know exactly why. That's not a question you need to ask. I just
left it an open question.
You don't need to ask why does weird things happen at Ole Miss.
So the kids videotape themselves, the frat boys at Ole Miss. Shadur, everything is on video. Do you think, though, so of everything that unfolded with that saga is they already knew what the NFL thought of them, so that was a reason they did not go to Green Bay?
Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
Okay, so while there's this outrage about why didn't he get picked, maybe the family already knew with the evaluation from the NFL about on and off the field, what they thought of their son, Deion, what they thought of Deion's son. They were like, let's just stay here. Because if he had gone, now somebody may have felt bad and said, okay, we got to get him out of the green room.
Sure.
But going to Dallas, having their own party that maybe they were aware, maybe post that meeting with the New York Giants, which Dable did not want to address, maybe they knew what the NFL thought of them, and so they were just playing it. We'll play both sides, but we're going to make a smart decision because that could have been a catastrophe.
Well, wasn't it covered up beautifully, right, in terms of them not going to the draft, in terms of, hey, so many people don't go to the draft. Only 17 out of, the probably 35 to 40 dudes that were invited didn't go to the draft. And, hey, all these different people, watch the draft from their home. So it's not like it was a weird thing for him to do. And then he made his own room, which was like, oh, this is sponsored or whatever. I think they knew that there was a strong possibility that they were going to fall out of the first round, henceforth why they didn't go to the draft. I don't think for 1 second that they thought he was going to go in the 5th round. I don't think anyone in that room thought that Shadur Sanders was going to be a day 3 pick. Because if they thought he was going to be a day 3 pick, if they thought that, hey, this is actually going to happen, I don't think they would have allowed the NFL Network or ESPN to put their cameras in their party or anything like that. I mean, I don't think if you knew that, hey, he's probably going to go in the 4th, that you're like, oh yeah, let's let all the national media put all the cameras on us and dissect all of our reactions to this entire night. I think they thought, oh, maybe 2nd or 3rd round. I don't think they thought Jalen Milroe or Dylan Gabriel or Tyler Shuck were going to be taken before him.
No, but that shows you there's a gap in the NFL from if they think you're a franchise quarterback, and then if you're not, you're mixed in with a bunch of other quarterbacks.
Yes.
That's how the NFL looks at it. And it was a bad weekend for sports media as well, because sports media, you got to take, when you start making things personal and you have a relationship with Deion, you know what? You're not doing him, his son, or your viewers, your listeners, any favors when you're not real. Okay? You got a bias that is there instead of being real and going, you know what? The NFL knows something. I've watched, this is a talent thing.
Yeah.
The more we go, this is a talent thing. But then also the further you go, just kind of like Belichick, I think we're in a day and age where if you're the number one guy, you can put up with some crap.
Sure.
If you're the backup, that ain't flying. But in this day and age where we've seen the Aaron Rodgers and some of the other divas and the things that they've created in a sport where that locker room is so important or that clubhouse is so important, if you are Bill Belichick or the Deion Sanders of the world attached to his son, and you are unmanageable, there is not a place for you.
No.
There is not a place for you of where you used to be. So that's why the NFL shuts the door on Bill Belichick, and that's why, as you get further in the draft, I think the NFL said, okay, we're not really sold on his talent. Then there's the other part of it, and maybe we don't need that. And they make those decisions. Because, look, Cleveland drafted him. Yeah. And I actually think this is a great spot for Shedeur. But Cleveland drafted Dylan Gabriel the day before. There was it's almost like they were forced to make a pick. And they made a pick. And now they got to deal with what is going on in Cleveland of trying to get away from this dysfunction label that we have. Now we got two quarterbacks. We got Flacco, we got Pickett, and we've got the circus that's coming to town.
They put themselves in the exact position that every team was trying to avoid putting themselves in, which is having a Deion, Shedeur, Colorado quarterback circus. Because now, what are we all going? All of Cleveland media for the next couple of months are going to be talking about Shedeur and who's going to be playing quarterback, and then even on a national level. Like, when they're bored in the middle of the summer at ESPN and they get a Shedeur update, that's going to be on the A block of First Take, or that's going to be on the A block of Get Up.
But it's smart. They're in the business of ratings. You cannot deny that the NFL hasn't seen the stardom of Shedeur Sanders like they are seeing. Shedeur Sanders, not being drafted on night one, drove the ratings in day two.
Big time.
I mean, that's why ESPN went into bed with Colorado. Because Colorado and the Sanders name draws
we can't quit them.
But people. Yeah, you can't quit them. It's like the Kardashians.
But
maybe.
At this point, though, during this draft process,
emoji.
ESPN did Shedeur and the Sanders family absolutely zero favors.
Well, because they made it personal. Any argument you have in sports, give me the facts. All right. Once you make it personal, then I got you.
Sure.
But if we're going to just talk facts, then we're in it to win it. And the facts are he's not a franchise quarterback. Okay, there's the talent part of it. And we're afraid to say that out loud. So we start looking for other excuses on why he was not drafted.
But the thing is, though, is that I do think that the Sanders family, until I saw a quote today that I don't know if it's 100% true, so I'm not going to say it. I saw it surfacing on Twitter. I'll have to
that's got to be true.
But we'll see. But the Sanders family, for the most part, in my opinion, handled the situation probably as well as you could. I mean, they were recording everything. They were making jokes about it. They actually looked a little bit vulnerable, in terms of the fact that they did not anticipate that he would slide all this way. And still, when he got drafted, he was celebrated. And you want to talk about a couple of tweets and whether or not they're genuine. All the tweets that Shedeur had were, thank God, everything like this, very humbling, whatnot. ESPN it wasn't Shedeur who was like, I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe this is unfair. This is absolutely ridiculous. There's a code red. It was ESPN who was doing that and saying all of that. And even despite the fact that Shedeur wasn't saying that, we are now attaching the sentiment of, oh my God, how could this happen to me, to him as a character?
Because sports media is kind of broken.
In what way? How is sport media broken?
Watching this weekend.
Sure.
Okay. What you got to, what? I think Prime would like some honesty instead of people that were carrying water on TV.
Yeah.
So we get this God complex. There are certain media members that have a national platform that have a God complex. Mel Kiper.
Sure.
Mel Kiper is smarter than 32 other NFL teams. Now, granted, there are 80% of front offices that don't necessarily know what they're doing. But you're telling me a guy on TV with a God complex is telling everybody else that he is smarter and he knows more than they do, and they went through the process of sitting in front of an individual and interviewing him and watching tape and being in the NFL. Sports media is kind of broken.
Well,
it becomes there.
It's too personal.
We lost just talking about facts. Okay, talking about facts instead of driving your own narrative. And
at all
They're
costs.
just throwing crap out there for clicks and for views.
The biggest problem, though, is that, and I'm not going to act like I watched every single hour of the ESPN coverage, but I watched a lot of it. At one point, did you ever hear one of the pundits just flat out say, look, he botched the draft process. He botched the evaluation process.
No,
he should have done better because he did.
The real good reporters that have their sources and talk to people with boots on the ground, they were saying that, but they also were saying that before we ever got to Thursday night in Green Bay.
Yes.
They tried to tell you.
And also, too.
Yeah, that's the thing. People have been telling you this, not a large amount, but the smart people have been telling you that this is a possibility.
People who
well,
know
everybody
ball.
else is just saying, no.
Well, Deion has been telling you this because Deion, even before the beginning of last season, went on the Rich Eisen show and said, have you seen some of these franchises? Do you think I want my son playing for some of these franchises? He, up until like March, he was talking about Shedeur as if they had the pick of the lot, as if they were going to choose where he's going to play. And then when you sit down and you watch the tape, how many NFL teams looked at it and said, this guy isn't good enough
Yeah, we're good.
to pick who he's going to play? Who does this guy think he is that he doesn't want to play for us? Hell, we don't want you to, we don't want to even want to draft you.
Okay.
I really thought my team was going to.
I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, but I think he could be a quarterback in the NFL.
Sure.
And from this standpoint is, okay, he's athletic. But if I'm spending that kind of money on a quarterback and you see it more, and even with your quarterback last year,
sure,
man, you got to get the ball out quick. Okay, you got to bang, bang, bang decision making. You can't just rely on athleticism in the NFL. Okay, you have to have some football smarts and the QB skills that go with it. And I think the NFL looked at Shedeur Sanders and said, not a franchise quarterback. Now, does that mean he drops all the way to the fifth? But I think once you are labeled as not a franchise quarterback, the gap between those guys, and remember, this was not a great quarterback draft for the top end, those guys and the middle is pretty large. And so then you have to factor in other things about, okay, what's our roster going to look like?
Well,
is there any baggage there? What's going to go into this? Do we see him as a future starter? And I think how the NFL works, we saw played out this weekend. I don't think there was any agenda. I think this is the National Football League that teams have to win, and it's a billion-dollar business that
win or they find someone else who will.
Yeah.
I don't think it was an agenda. I just think it was poor self-scout by Shedeur, because I think you're absolutely right in the regard that once you are past the point of you're not going to be the number one overall pick, or you're not even close to being the number one overall pick, you actually have to take the draft process seriously. You actually have to go through the steps that everybody else has to go through.
You got to sell yourself.
He failed to do that.
He
did not do that.
You brought this up. Self-awareness. He did mention that. He did mention that after he had gotten drafted, that he could have done things differently. So it actually can turn into, and people might not like this because it would be shoved back in your face, he could be the ultimate underdog.
Yeah.
But it's all about so you admitted that you would have done things different on the process.
Sure.
Maybe thrown at the combine, gone to the Senior Bowl. Now, what do you do moving forward? Do you take those lessons and do you use them to your benefit, or are you still part of a world of entitlement? And the NFL says, no. In college, you can do that.
Yes.
Because college, the players have more power than they've ever had.
Yeah.
In the NFL, the players have power, but at the end of the day, boom.
You got to drop the entourage. If you're Shedeur, you have to drop it. You can be, big watch, putting it in front of fans and running around and having 3 different cameras right in front of you when you get drafted, when you are the guy at Colorado, when you are resurrecting a program that before you had come was 1-11 and one of the worst teams. You can be like that there. You cannot be like that as the backup quarterback, more than likely, for the Cleveland Browns. Period. End of story. You have to drop all of that. No more Deion, no more Shiloh, no more rapping, no more big, if you want to wear a couple big chains, fine. You do your style, but all of the stuff that comes with being number 2 and 2 money, it's over.
Well, I
now.
think I think the whole Aaron Rodgers thing has started to end the celebrity quarterback days.
No, because I still think you can be a celebrity quarterback. You just can't be delusional. I just think like Aaron Rodgers is just so full of himself.
Do you think Pat Mahomes is a celebrity quarterback?
What do you mean by celebrity quarterback?
Everywhere in the news for more stuff that has nothing to do with football.
He's not, but I think that's just a reflection of his character. Because here's the thing.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers
that helps in when you're looking to somebody to draft, right?
Sure.
To go along with their immense talent.
Yes. But I just want to hop back with the Aaron Rodgers thing, the celebrity quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, yes, has been way more outspoken, and we have definitely pushed him away because of outspoken he has been. At the same time, his play has deteriorated greatly. If Aaron Rodgers was still 3-time MVP, best quarterback in the league or whatever, that's just Aaron. These are the things that you have to deal with. Now that he's, fallen off a cliff, we look at him, we're like, we don't want this guy, get the hell away from us. It's the same thing with Shedeur. Deion was this way, but Deion was so damn good. We didn't give a damn. Yep. We didn't care because we knew that as soon as he stepped onto the field, he was the best player on the field. With Shedeur, that's not the case. It's not the case at all. And so you know what you say? You go, we don't want that around until your owner calls you and says, hey, I know you already drafted a quarterback, but you're taking Shedeur. Because do you think they looked all that happy in the Cleveland war room when they took Shedeur Sanders? When they had the best pick of the draft, according to Mel Kiper, who gave like 1 A+. Mel Kiper gave 1 A+ for drafts this year. Guess who the A+ was? Shock. The Cleveland Browns.
Oh.
That was
he can give them all he wants.
The owner called in and said, hey, it's the 5th round now. We need to sell jerseys. We need to end this. I don't know if the NFL called Cleveland's owner, but Cleveland's owner definitely called that war room. And they took him.
The NFL called Nebraska twice about 2 prospects that got drafted. And a strange list yesterday popped up. Plus, not only Mel Kiper, now he didn't touch Nebraska, but what was up with Joe Klatt? Joe Klatt went all in. He went nuclear on Nebraska.
I thought he liked Nebraska.
So
he and Rule are
weird.
friends.
We'll discuss that as we roll till 10. A little bit later, Evan Bland stops by on Gary and Matt, 1620 The Zone. All right, going to be another day of looking to the skies and storms on the way. And you know what? We've had unfortunate stretch of bad weather that has probably done a toll on your roof, your siding, or your gutters. So what do you do before the next storm arrives? Well, trust your roof, your siding, your gutters to the MVPs of roofing in Omaha, Moose Roofing. Pat Moose and his crew, they are here before the storm, during the storm, and after the storm. They've been in business for nearly 30 years from Western Iowa all the way to Lincoln, over 15,000 roofs that they have put on, residential, roof repair and service, commercial roofing. They can do it all. They just don't show up and put on a roof or new siding and gutters. They get to know you because you are a customer for life. They'll go through all of the key elements of the system that you have with your roof, and they are experts in the ventilation system. Plus, they're looking to fortify your roof before the next major storm occurs so that you can save money on proper and preventive maintenance. Plus, they also work with your insurance claim process, which has become increasingly difficult. Pat was telling me some of the stories that they go through, but they are in it to win it for you. And they go to work. They just don't observe from the ground. They get into the meat and potatoes to make sure that you are satisfied with your new roof, your siding, or your gutters. So if you've got leaks, you're looking to sell your home, you want a new roof, or you want to be prepared, schedule an inspection today. Let Pat Moose and his MVP crew come out and take care of you. Moose Roofing. Look them up online as well at mooseroofing.com. All right, the 2025 draft is over, so now we're on to 2026. Learn yourself some Arch Manning, among others.
I was going to bring this up to you. I've already looked at a 2026 NFL mock draft yesterday, and I thought I'm going to bring this up on the show, and Gary's going to think I'm an absolute psycho.
No, I looked at one that caught my interest.
Okay. Go ahead.
On CBS Sports.
Yep.
They do a mock draft. And I don't know, there was no name attached to it.
Sure.
It's not like Pete Prisco or anybody like that. Coming in at 21 for the 2026 draft, the 21st pick, I believe, by the Houston Texans on this mock on CBSSports.com yesterday. Nebraska offensive tackle Eli Pritchett.
Wow. I am looking at it now. Pritchett is an unfinished product that teams have been trying to get in the transfer portal from Alabama for the past 2 years. So definitely, this is incredible, because what I was going to tell you is that I look at the 2026 NFL mock drafts to kind of identify, okay, here are what scouts are saying are like heading into the year potential top 32 prospects. Does Nebraska play any of them? How many of them are in the Big Ten? How many of them are the SEC and the Big Ten combined? You get a feel for where college football is at looking at them. I can only imagine me being a reporter elsewhere looking at this mock draft and then seeing Elijah Pritchett for Nebraska and thinking, oh, Nebraska's got an offensive tackle. Like they must have done some really good things on the offensive line. Now I look at this knowing, Elijah Pritchett, incredible prospect. Don't get me wrong. Has played football for Alabama, has been on the field. Definitely not someone I would have warranted or assumed would be mocked 21st overall in the first round to begin the year. I mean, that's interesting looking at it from this lens, like seeing like a guy that you wouldn't anticipate, being on there now being on there,
the word unfinished. So, we went through all of his A's at Alabama, and maybe they're connecting the dots that anybody that is a high star coming out of high school plays at Alabama, they're going to get drafted. Well, now he's playing at Nebraska, and maybe he's different with a different quarterback. Like Jalen Milroe would bail from the pocket. Raiola is not going to bail. So maybe that affects him. I will tell you this about Elijah. He's had a really good spring camp. And I was given the story earlier about how he is the first to jump in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so he's got a big smile on his face, and he's a big boy. Is that he's had a good fall. I mean, he's locked down that tackle spot. There is no debate on if he's going to be a bust out of the portal. He's come in and grabbed the starting spot, but that seems to be a little aggressive. That seems like too much. High star coming out of high school, played at Alabama, just needs another year of football, and then he'll be into the draft. Now, it would be ideal if Nebraska got him drafted, but I think it's a little bit of a reach on April 27th to say that he's going to be the 21st overall pick. But you never know. It's the curious case of the NFL draft. Tommy Hill, where are you at? Tommy Hill.
Undrafted.
Nobody knows where he's at.
No.
Like, he's AWOL. They can't find him. He is now on to Monday where, bam, 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 Saturday, Sunday, UDFA contracts are being signed. No Tommy Hill. And remember, Tommy Hill last September was a first-round guy. It would be ideal. I think it's kind of like, okay. I wonder how he looks at it. Maybe he says, damn right, I'm going to prove you. Well, somebody needs to start proving Nebraska in the draft.
It's one of those things, though, and I've talked about this, connecting college and the NFL, right? Like, there are great college football players, but in order to be a first-round pick, you need a first-round body, okay? Yeah. There are some guys who, no matter what they do in college, are probably gonna go in the second or third round because they just don't have the height or the length or the speed or whatnot. It's always nice, and I think that Nebraska has lacked this, especially over the last couple of years. They haven't necessarily had guys who've had first round bodies who you just immediately look at and you go, oh, if he can have any sort of production, this is a guy that can go very high in the draft. I feel like that is kind of a visual for progress in a way that, hey, you're actually getting dudes in here who If they just produce, they're going to go because they have what we deem as elite measurables. And this is something that this coaching staff has prided themselves on.
Well, so I think the draft, the way the NFL looks at college, I think tells you a lot about your program. They tell you a lot about your ability to acquire talent.
Yes.
They also tell you about your ability or lack of ability to coach. Maryland has 5 guys drafted. What did they do in the Big Ten this year? That's right. They went 1-8. Okay.
Cal had 5 guys drafted.
So it tells you, I think the NFL tells you a lot about your program. And when I look at another draft for Nebraska, where 8 of the last 9 drafts, Nebraska's had 2 guys or less picked. Ty Robinson goes to Philadelphia. Great move. Do not overlook who is drafting your player or who is signing if they are good football people and they know ball. Howie Roseman knows ball. That says a lot. There's something about when the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Ravens talk about your players.
The good team.
Yeah. Right, which they know ball. Okay. So that's like, okay. So
there's a reason why they're good.
8 of the last 9 years, Nebraska's had 2 or less. In a similar span, Minnesota 6 straight years has had a first or second round pick. Just say that out loud. Now, Minnesota also has beaten Nebraska on the field. Nebraska just had a lineman who played the most games ever. 5 years at Nebraska. Bryce Benhart. He's not even signed to an undrafted free agent.
He wasn't even on the radar.
But there are some guys, whether they be a Banks to a Gifford to a Bullocks, who have signed undrafted free agents. I think the NFL looks at Nebraska and they say, you are a 7-5 football program that's got 1 or 2 great players, but then you have a bunch of good players. You're a 7-5 football program where we like the guys that we sign undrafted, but we're not going to spend one of our coveted 7 to 9 picks on that guy.
I'm not saying that it's the ultimate needle mover and it's something that is going to get Nebraska more high school prospects or better recruits or maybe even more draft picks. But I do think, though, that it is a very like if I am Matt Rule, I am very happy that the Philadelphia Eagles have taken a liking to my team and the prospects from my team. Jack Stoll, Nate Gary, Ty Robinson now, Cam Jurgens, right? Where you have now over the last couple of years a slew of guys who is going that Howie Roseman, arguably the best general manager, looks at guys from Nebraska and drafts. I think that's a positive thing. I think that when you have a organization like that at the top, who's like, no, this is a program and where we're going to take players from, that goes, I think that does something
that's what,
for
going
you.
back to something I said. To have good, who we consider good front offices, draft your guys or sign your guys. And I think it's even more with the undrafted free agent.
Sure.
Like Jason Licht, he's the best former Lincoln bartender that's a GM in the NFL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay? When those guys are signing your players, I think that bodes well because they like them. They just don't love them. And it has to be something when you hear like a Howie Roseman talk about a Ty Robinson.
Yeah.
Because Howie Roseman knows ball, and especially in an organization that knows that position with what they like at defensive line, that they would spend a 4th round pick on Ty Robinson.
But at the same time, I would rather have 7 to 8 draft picks.
Well, that's
than having
the NFL,
than having
the NFL
3 and
reality,
good.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it's one of those things where though the
NFL don't lie.
So Brett
don't lie.
Ciancia does an incredible job over at Pick Six Previews and has a player development model. And it's where he takes the best recruiting classes and then you convert it into how many draft picks were taken from those recruiting classes. Nebraska's dead last over in that metric. Yeah. They were 3rd to last the year before. They were dead last year.
So you can get talent, you just can't develop it, right?
Exactly. And so that is why, though, this Matt Rule, to me, every time he talks about player development, that truly has been the problem with the program, right? And anytime he talks, we just got to get these guys, we got to make new skills, we got to coach them, we got to teach them, we got to train them. It's music to my ears because, yes, college football, especially nowadays, is all about the NIL and all about the money and all about the recruiting, getting top talent, but none of it matters. None of it matters if you can't get them onto the turf and you can't actually coach them, and you can't actually teach them how to do things. And that will always be the end all and the be all of football, period, end of story, of college football, period, end of story. And so it's just one of those things where it's a snowball effect, though, too, where if you get guys and develop guys and get in the NFL, do you know how much easier it is going to be to get better talent?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but it starts like this. This is how it starts. I mean,
How does it start?
Well, this is how it starts.
How
right?
does it start?
You're in year 3. Your second year, you didn't get any guys drafted. Now, after your second season, you get 2 guys drafted. Next year, you're hoping you get 3 guys drafted, 4 guys drafted, and then you just 4 or 5. And
guys.
then, yes, absolutely. And it starts to be your program because, Matt Rule made it very clear, hey, these are Scott Frost guys. I mean, it's going to be interesting when we see the first Matt Rule guy, the first true guy who came in for Rule, get drafted, get selected. Would you consider Dane Key a true because he's a transfer?
Yeah, I mean,
are we talking high school recruit?
Let's talk high school because I think that's where it starts. Because that's all part of the development. Not that you can't develop a portal guy,
yeah,
but sometimes guys come in ready-made and they're just looking for a change of scenery.
I think it'll be McGahee.
I'd be right there with you.
I think it'd be McGahee. I think it's really tough to say, man, it's going to be Dylan because NFL quarterback, it's just such a difficult process as a quarterback to years out where he is going to go, right? Dylan Raiola could be a 6th, 7th round draft pick as easily as I can't tell you right now what he's going to be.
Yep.
With McGahee, with his size, with his power, with what we've seen last year at a premium position, I would put my money on him to be the first true Rule guy taken.
Georgia, the 2021 championship team, 44 guys drafted off that team. 2017, Alabama had 47 guys. The incredible 2001 Miami team that beat Nebraska in the national championship game, 38 guys drafted. Here's the other thing of looking at where a program is going. Great stat on NFL Network late Saturday. Steve Sarkisian hasn't been at Texas very long, right?
Yeah, no.
He has now had a player, whether it was him that he brought to the 40 acres or was there, he has had a player drafted at every position group now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is...
Once Quinn Ewers was off the board, who, by the way, should have gone in the portal instead of going into the NFL draft. Once he went off the board, he's had at every position group.
Wow.
He has had a guy drafted.
That's funny that the last position taken for Sarkisian was quarterback, considering the fact that we've deemed him a quarterback whisperer and whatnot.
So,
I mean, he hasn't been there long enough.
I'm thinking, was Sam Ehlinger drafted or did he was an undrafted free agent?
No, I think he got signed by the Rams. If
they put the graphic up after Ewers got drafted.
That's 2 guys that now though. If you went back and you found articles from the beginning of last season, Quinn Ewers was a borderline 1st round pick, 2nd round pick, and now
things change.
And now he's a 7th round draft pick. Sam Ehlinger was the same exact way. He was a guy before his final season at Texas was going to be considered as a top draft pick. I mean, it's just really curious how that's now happened twice with Sark. And now you hope it doesn't happen a 3rd time because it's set up the exact same with Archie Manning, who, by the way, mocked to go to the Saints. How funny would that be if that happened? I don't think Senior would like that.
But Ty Robinson goes to the Eagles and Tommy Tats goes to the New York Giants and Thomas Fedoni. 2 local products went, and one of them, all of a sudden, Joe Klatt chose violence on Nebraska. We'll get into that when we come back. Evan Bland's going to stop by at 8:30. Plus, we'll get into good day for Creighton basketball yesterday. Blake Harper transfers from Howard to the Hilltop. Hello. Hang that banner in the offseason. What a way to go out. 1 year and you're a loaded roster, and then you hand it over to the Husk Bus. Pretty impressive haul so far for Creighton basketball. And here's the scary thing. They still got 1 spot left. Maybe add an additional big.
What if the rules change in the summer?
And Nebraska men's basketball maybe adding a player who may not be ready to play, but they're adding a little. They like the internationals. All right, we'll do all that as we roll till 10 on a Monday on 1620 The Zone.
Underdog just became one of the best places to make picks during the NBA playoffs with their extender promo, which I'm fixing to find out about later this week. With the extender, you can play your way to increasingly bigger boosts each round of the playoffs as round 2 gets ready to get underway this weekend. It is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. Millions of fans have already run billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next to play? All you have to do is download the app. Choose whether a player go higher or lower. What are their stats? For example, the Bucks a lot of lowers because their season's pretty much done. You can choose from things like points, assists, and so much more. If you get your picks correct, you get money. You could win up to 1,000 times your money, which is a lot. So you could turn $1 into $1,000 just with your hoops knowledge. People forget $1,000, more than $1. This week on Underdog, we are wrapping up round 1 of the NBA playoffs, looking at round 2. Unless you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, you're already in round 2. As the Memphis Grizzlies have gone fishing. Either way, there are games this week, and I hope to make money on them because I like money, and I think you do too. Download the Underdog app. Sign up with promo code ZONE to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code ZONE. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/extend.html for details concerned with your play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
There's a lot of stuff online. If you weren't able to get to the garage sale, your fellow Nebraskans went to the garage sale. They bought stuff, and now they put it online for you to buy.
On the eBay.
Looking for something today. A couple of tweets to finish up the hour. This is from Iowa JD.
Our favorite.
Boy, Pittsburgh drafting Caleb Johnson. That was a good fit. So what you're saying, Gary, is the NFL is drafting turnstiles in round one. It is not my mock draft. It is CBS Sports. It has Elijah Pritchett as 21 overall. Put it on the board. He won't be on the 2 deep by the end of the year and getting the Jeff Sims treatment at Nebraska.
We don't know that. All right. I mean, the guy is incredibly talented. He's got all the measurables in the world. Yes. Was it not a great stay at Alabama? It was not. But it wasn't like he was sitting on the bench like other guys that Nebraska has brought in from the SEC that were O-linemen. This guy actually has experience. And Dominic Raiola, in my opinion, is a really, really good offensive line coach. And talking to those offensive linemen, they love him. They love what he does and how he coaches them. And so I think there's a hope, at least for me, with how good I think he is as an O-line coach, that he will take big steps this season.
I will take a bet with Iowa JD. I think I'm up 1-0 in some of our previous bets.
But it is early.
So he said that I won't be on the 2 deep by the end of the year. Now, if he won't be on the 2 deep if he gets injured, and he won't get the Jeff Sims treatment. He is not going to be doing Amigos commercials. So if you'd like to bet, you know where to find me. You got my number. Joel writes in on the Twitter machine. What really tells the story is that Nebraska is 2-13 combined against Minnesota and Iowa since 2017.
Jeez.
I think it's a fact that's flying under the radar.
It's not flying under this radar. I am very well aware that Nebraska has not been able to beat Minnesota. Very well aware of the fact that in a lot of those games, Nebraska's been favored and has lost to that team and has lost to that coach.
It's pretty impressive. All the knocks that PJ gets, 6 straight years they've had a first or second round guy drafted.
It's interesting positions too. It's a lot on the offensive end. They've had, wide receivers drafted. They've had offensive linemen drafted. They've had running backs drafted. Pretty sure Tanner Morgan got picked up as an undrafted free agent. Like, they've been able to, especially on that offensive side of the ball, they've been able to create legitimate NFL prospects.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk a little basketball. Whether it be the Ant-Man, which there's something happened in that game which sports needs to get back to, and the big pickup by Creighton. To me, it's my favorite addition for the Creighton roster in this offseason that has been very, very busy. Might be expensive, but there could be a payoff in April. We'll get into that as we come to you after the top of the hour. 1620 The Zone. All right, 8 o'clock. Evan Bland coming up in 30 minutes on 1620 The Zone.
They need to make more songs like this.
They're
in
still
this day
making
and age.
songs.
I know, but like this style of like pop, this kind of like, punky, like fast moving pop. I dig it. I've never been like, it's never been my genre. Like I've never been like, oh, I love this band. Every time these types of songs come on though, I bop. I just think they're bops. We just need more of them.
Summer of '97.
Do you
This video
bop
was
or
on
do
all
you
the time.
rock?
With this one,
I think this is a rock.
this is a rocker. This is a rocker. But it moves quick enough where I can bop a little. Like
Bop
I think
is
this
a
is a
country
bop
song.
rock. This is a bop rock. I just created a new form of
Bop
music.
rock.
Bop rock. This is bop
For
rock.
this particular band.
You can rock and bop. Bop and rock.
Coming to 1019 The Keg.
1019 the
Bop,
kid.
bop rock.
Bop rock.
Busy sports week. NBA and NHL playoffs continue. They've been absolute bangers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Dame went down. He looks like he's torn his
Yeah.
Achilles. Father Time has caught up to him in his prime.
Mhm.
And going to Milwaukee.
We're gonna
That's
talk
okay.
about.
Keep Giannis. Get rid of Doc.
They're going to 1, 2, 3 Cancun tomorrow night.
I have always been a massive fan of Drew Holiday. I absolutely love Drew Holiday and
Mhm.
how he plays. He's a connector. He's a defensive guy. He can it took him later than maybe we expected, but like his ability to create his own offense has definitely developed into things that maybe we didn't see before when he was playing in Philadelphia early on in his career. I cannot believe that the Milwaukee Bucks, who watched him play every single night, who watched him help them win a title, thought that he was the problem, thought that he was the issue, thought that they needed to get rid of him. And what did he do? He turned around and he won a title with the Celtics. I think that that will go down as one of the worst trades in the Giannis Milwaukee Bucks era. Getting rid of Drew Holiday, just an absolute disaster.
Also this week, it is for my friends who have been involved and work out there. Thursday is the reopening of Quarry Oaks. You said the weather's
going to be gorgeous after we get
Yeah.
through the storms this evening. It's going to be a great week.
Was this the golf course that you had to book at the beginning of the summer that like it opens up and then you had to like get in? Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Lower humidity, temperatures in the 70s, I think.
I'm looking forward to playing out there to see the changes that they've made because they have put a lot into this. So Thursday is that's the official opening of
That May 1st?
Quarry Oaks.
Yeah, it's May 1st.
Is it May 1st?
Yeah.
May Day.
Oh, May Day, yes. Not just a
back-
Bond villain.
Bring back the tradition of May Day baskets.
I didn't know what this was either. He explained it to me
What's
last year.
May
I get
Day?
it now.
So when I was a kid growing up in my neighborhood, May Day was a big deal, and you made May Day baskets. And they were the little styrofoam cups, and you'd put the what do you call the handle that you would attach?
The handle.
No, what's that called?
A hinge?
That's an app.
This is styrofoam cups.
Oh,
I know what I can't think of it.
It is
a clip-on.
No.
That's a
I'll
tie.
think of it. But then you would fill it with candy, and you would leave it on people's doorsteps to celebrate May Day. Might be just an Iowa thing.
We didn't do that in San Antonio,
Yeah.
probably because it was already routinely 95 to 100 degrees every day, so that stuff was just going to melt.
Yeah, we didn't do any of that stuff.
So they are opening on May Day, huh?
Is that like a?
It's the 1st of May.
Yeah.
Will I like wake up to my apartment door like having like candy there in front of it, like with a gift basket?
Probably not.
I don't know. I don't know the people that run your apartment complex.
Would
you
you
could do
remember?
it.
Do you have any memories of like really good May Day gift baskets where you're like, yeah,
they're full of candy.
That's all that mattered.
Yeah, we do it in school too.
wow, never heard of it.
I missed out.
Yeah, it might have been just a Iowa tradition,
was.
or it might have been just an Urbandale tradition.
To be fair, I
a
didn't
lot of people say
discover.
the traditions start in Urbandale and they end once they cross Maryland Drive.
Is that what they say?
They do. They say just go to the internet.
Is
That'll
that on
tell you everything you
the
need to know.
the walls of the town hall?
The
they
town
say
charter.
I don't know. I've never been to the city hall in Urbandale.
you've never been to your own city hall.
Why would I go to my own city hall?
Well,
I
you
mean,
grew up there.
I haven't
Like,
been
you
to
didn't-
mine.
You didn't have to go and like file paperwork or go and take your grandmother to vote or anything like that, or like, have to like register for something to do with your house or whatnot.
I moved away when I was 18.
Okay, well, still, like you never had to take anybody there or like go there. I'm just
Hello,
saying in
little
general.
Gary. Tell your parents hi. Here you
never-
go.
I mean,
Thanks for
I
coming.
just think that's very funny that like you just grew up in a place and you never went to their town hall. I feel like everybody's been to their,
I don't know that
city's
we had
town
a
hall,
town hall.
driven
I think it was the city hall.
city
Like
hall.
I never went to like any city hall meetings or anything like that.
Wow.
That's what my parents did. Leave it to them. I also, I moved in when I was 18. So anything before that, it'd be like on a field trip.
I know. I've been to the Skokie Town Hall plenty of times.
Yeah.
It's right by Prosel Park. Henry A. Prosel Park.
I can't even tell you where it's at.
You couldn't even tell me
Urbandale.
where your Urbandale City Hall
You got
is?
that?
No.
It's your city.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
I
Don't feel
grew
bad.
up there. I haven't lived there.
Don't
Okay,
feel
fair
bad.
Okay. I feel different if I lived there.
I've never been to City Hall in San Antonio.
Thank you to
It's okay.
everybody. Pipe cleaner. So you would take the pipe cleaner and you would
Pipe
bend it,
cleaner. Yes,
and
there
then
we
you
go.
would attach it to the side.
Yes.
Kelly Ann says Mayday baskets were a thing in Corning. Drop a basket of candy and run so you don't get a kiss. That's what it was.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah, you'd knock
That's
on the
right.
door.
That's right.
So back to your ding dong ditch 'em.
Mhm.
So this is like a fun
Yeah.
nice
Ding dong ditching. Yeah.
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 ditch.
Another
Okay.
thing that I think adults should do. You know, like
What-
Mayday baskets?
Like they have, they have water days at
Mhm.
ballparks
Mhm.
in minor league. I always wanted to have an adult big splash.
What if you did like a prank call, but like you actually complimented the individual like over and over again? Like, hey,
How would that go?
I am so proud of you. I am so proud of the things that you have accomplished.
You
You're
are
incredible
wise.
at what you do.
You are sweet.
I just watching you from afar has been an absolute pleasure and privilege.
Your
and I hope
Audi
you
is a
continue to
delight.
Do all the things that you do, and then I hang up on them, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, that must have been my cousin or something like that," and then they feel good about themselves. Or they think, "Wow, who is watching me, giving me all these compliments? Is
And
there
there
a
it is.
stalker out there that has my eyes on me that I do not know?"
Do
That
you
was
always
actually
sleep on
really
your back?
creepy.
Hmm?
Jeez, what?
I did not know I did.
Okay. I'm just absorbing.
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Go ahead.
I would take
So
a compliment phone call from you, Matt.
Compliment
And then just
prank
hang
call.
up?
And then you hang up.
Just call a random person.
Yeah, why not? Hey, it's your cousin.
Could be a bit.
Hey, it's your cousin. I just want to let you know. Like, say that you're a relative or someone that they would know. And then just say very nice things about them. That's what Mayday is, but
Just-
over the phone.
Just think if
Over the phone
if
Mayday.
Jeff Olbricht's kid would have done that. Would have
Yeah,
been a lot
by the
different.
way, what is it with my generation doing
Here we go.
bad things and then thinking it's a good idea to take videos of them doing the incriminating
Is this a real question?
things? Yes.
You're just. Is this just for a reaction or
No,
because that's what you do?
We would ask you
That's what you
because
do.
you're the young.
And
You tell
why-
us.
everything that generation does is on video.
I know, but
It's
why
all
it
for
makes
the gram.
it makes zero sense. Why would you do something that is incredibly frowned upon and that you are going to get in trouble for, and then think
because
it's
you
a
don't
good
think it's
idea?
frowned upon until somebody
How does
stands up
that
in the room
kid
and go, "Hey,"
not know that it's
You can't
frowned
do
upon?
that.
He
No
stole
means
it
no.
from his father
Then why would he videotape it?
because he's not very smart.
Okay.
I almost used the I word, but I know that you don't like the I word, so he's not very smart.
What's he-
Idiot.
Oh
Oh,
No.
I thought it was intelligent.
no. Hey, Kevin Durant, he an idiot. By the way, on this Monday, have yourself a day like Jordy Ball had yesterday.
Yeah.
There might not
Good
be
Lord.
a better return on investment in Nebraska athletics than Jordy Ball coming back home. And the Nebraska softball season is coming to an end. I think this is their last home regular season. Like the Big Ten tournament's going to start here shortly, and hopefully they can host.
Yeah.
She had a day yesterday. She's got 15 home runs now. She has got 17 home runs, 56 RBIs, and threw her 6th shutout of the year yesterday out in Seattle. The softball in Lincoln and Bowling Park is good. Jordy Ball is really, really good. Might be the National Player of the Year. And then, oh, by the way, there's over at Cornhuskers, where they're done for the year. They will be hosting the Summit League tournament next year because Omaha
Nice.
is going to win the regular season in the Summit League.
Incredible.
Matty Agroff is a absolute wagon. So we could have 2 teams. Now, Omaha would have to win their league tournament
Yeah.
up in the goat track of Brookings. But we could have 2 teams from here in the tournament for softball. How many will we have in baseball? What is Creighton's RPI after another weekend sweep?
I do not know, but I just looked at Nebraska softball's RPI, and they are now up to 25 after kind
Boom.
of being in the 30s for a while. Let me look up their RPI right now. They are Control F. Creighton is 64 right now in the Big East, 28-12. Nebraska is 78. Or no,
Wow.
sorry. I got those wrong. Nebraska is now 68, and Creighton is 57. Creighton 57, Nebraska 68.
All right.
Moving in the right direction.
Probably
Slow and steady.
Creighton will sit into that maybe first 4 out.
Yeah, for at-larges,
Yeah.
more than likely.
Yeah.
I mean, they would need to do a little bit more work, but man, like 8 wins in a row. I mean, they're absolutely clicking right now when they absolutely need to be clicking. And Nebraska, look, would you have liked a sweep? At this point, you're hoping for a sweep every Big Ten series, considering the fact that they're not playing high levels of competition, they're not playing the best teams of the Big Ten? Sure. But that win yesterday against Maryland was massive, especially after Michigan swept Michigan State over the weekend. So Nebraska tied for 10th in the Big Ten standings.
If they would have lost yesterday, because Maryland has basically a day of pitching.
Yeah.
They walked 10 yesterday. That would have been, but again, they win 2 of 3 after losing the first game. So there's some resiliency there. K-State for Nebraska tomorrow. Omaha and Creighton play the kids game tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. downtown. Have fun if you're going to the game. Bring some earplugs.
Kansas State currently 43 in the RPI,
Mm-hmm.
so it would be a good little midweek win for the Huskers if they could get it done.
The basketball continues, even though the portal is now closed.
Yes.
The portal is closed all over the place. But remember, it usually takes about 24 to 48 hours for some paperwork to be processed. And then out there, people were going through the small roster in the spring game on Saturday, trying to figure out who was there and who was not there and who was not playing. I imagine that Nebraska will have a couple of guys, defensive back, maybe an offensive lineman, that go into the portal. Speaking of the portal, Marty Brown did make it to Cal. Who knows what's going to happen with that situation, but he did get out to Berkeley, according to a couple of people that know that situation. But the portal in basketball has been very good to Creighton, and this feels to me like this is Mac's year, and they're going to go out the right way, but they're not just going to be one and done. They're going to make sure that Alan Huss has a good start when he takes over.
Sure.
So they add Blake Harper. It's been an unbelievable offseason for Creighton when you have to replace Kalkbrenner and Ashworth and Jemiah Neal, and you say, okay, how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
It's actually been insane. And it shows you in the Big East that the gap between St. John's, UConn, and Creighton this upcoming year, from the top 3 to even the 4th team, is starting to
big time.
This is my favorite pickup because he is somebody who has 3 years of eligibility left. Now, keep this in mind. And you know, you have to figure out, is Fedor going to be part of this roster? Is it his choice to be part of this roster?
Sure.
Are there options out there for him to go back home? But they have 3 of the 5 that they've added have multiple years of eligibility. Harper has 3. They will have 7 freshmen and sophomores on this roster.
Wow.
So they have the potential to be elite offense. They're going to have some interesting lineup combinations. They're also going to have some guys that are going to be butthurt because they're going to cut down the rotation. I mean, the competition is going to be really, really good.
I mean, they have easily 9 to 10 guys that are going to be competing for minutes right off the jump.
But I think Harper is perfect for this system, the way he plays. Now, he was the whole show at Howard.
Yeah.
And he generated a lot of the offense, whether the ball was in his hands or he was playing off the ball. But he is a guy that gets to the free throw line. He's a guy that can shoot it, and he's a guy that can distribute it. So people are going to look at his 19.5 per game and 6 rebounds and go, wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at his 3.4 assists and go, oh, okay. For a guy that is a volume scorer, to do that shows me something. But I like this pickup a lot. He may not pop right away like this year.
Sure.
Like come in and go, oh my God, he's scoring 20 a game.
Yeah.
But eventually he will turn out to be the best portal haul from the 5 that they have. It was a great pickup yesterday for Creighton, and what has been, I'll just say it, it's been an insane offseason for Creighton.
It's been, honestly, we were heading into the offseason thinking like, man, it's going to be tough for them to replace some of these pieces. And you were really questioning like, how much were they going to invest? Mm-hmm. How many spots they had to fill? What type of style were they going to play? And they have absolutely just attacked this, not only are they spending a lot of money, not only is there an actual identity, but they're actually getting like good players every other week, it feels like. And they are competing against, we talk about this from a football perspective, but they are competing against the big boys too when it comes to getting these transfer portal targets. I mean, they're not getting these these players and competing with Seton Hall or Providence or Minnesota. No, they are beating out Illinois. They are beating out Kansas. They are beating out some of the top teams in the country, which is incredibly impressive. I think for what this team will lack in defense, they're not going to lack in size, right? Adding another guy in Harper who's 6'8", you're hoping that, hey, he can develop into he's going to have to be an important defensive piece, especially if he's going to potentially take away minutes from other guys that you were thinking were going to be big defensive pieces. But funny enough, I was thinking about, man, this team, I was thinking like, man, this is going to be tough. Like, I hope they don't end up like Purdue, where their paint defense was absolutely terrible and took a massive drop off after losing their 7-foot center. But then I thought about it. Purdue was a 4 seed last year. Purdue was one of the best teams in the country. And so I'm not saying that Josh Dix is going to play at the level that Braden Smith played at last season. I'm not saying he's going to be a national player of the year, but I do think that this team is going to play a style of basketball and make a transition that we saw a team last year do and make a transition with, and they ended up getting a top 5 seed. And so I think that it's a pretty decent. Now, look, Matt Pater and Greg McDermott, very different coaches. The playing styles are going to be different. I'm not saying that that's 1-1. I'm not saying Creighton is going to be Purdue, but I'm just saying we've already kind of seen a team last year make that big transition of having a defensive anchor and losing it and still having success with what they've done in the portal, with Creighton has done in the portal. I don't think there's any reason to think they can't replicate some of that, of what Purdue did last year.
Now for Nebraska, is this could happen this week. There's a lot of smoke around this. I think it is Michael Perez is how you pronounce his first name. It's spelled Maikcol.
Okay.
That he could be in for Nebraska. Now, here's the thing about him, and that would fill, after Jordan Garcia from Tulsa committed last week, this would fill up Nebraska's roster. He's intriguing.
Yes. 4-star, 6'8", power forward, right? Another guy that you need, another big man. I like the addition of Jared Garcia from Tulsa, but I do think this team definitely still does need size. It definitely still needs some more athleticism. I think it's a very intriguing prospect.
Well, I think it's intriguing from the standpoint of he is only 17. So he is playing international, and he has had international competition. I think that's the way to go, to find where there's probably less competition. If you can create a pipeline, if you have somebody on your staff that knows how to recruit international players and has a connection there.
Yeah.
And I don't know who exactly that is on Nebraska's staff, but they have dabbled, of course, with international players. He won't turn 18, I think, until December, but he has a lot of high-level international experience. He is from Italy, but there is a lot of smoke around Michael Perez possibly being the next in and the last in for Nebraska. So he would be somebody, and this is where it gets tricky.
Sure.
Because he probably not going to walk in and play a large amount of minutes as you get him in tune with playing in the Big Ten and at this level. But he would be one of those that you would hope you'd retain, that your messaging would be, hey, get your feet wet.
Sure.
And then you're gonna pop to the front of the line, but don't get discouraged and say, peace, I'm out. Don't let people that are in your ear go, oh, yeah, you know what? Use Nebraska and we'll use you to get somewhere else.
Well, you hope that.
But he's not going to be 18 until December.
You hope that the experiences they've had over the last couple of years with having guys who are young that they recruited from high school, redshirting them and them leaving, you hope that those experiences have taught this coaching staff and this program some lessons of, all right, this is how we properly handle, a younger guy coming in here and then trying to get him some minutes down the line. Because, and look, it's not like Eli Rice and Ramel Lloyd are, have set the world on fire and have become incredible players. But this still is, I've always believed that, hey, if Nebraska is going to consistently make the NCAA tournament as a 7, 8, 9 seed, okay, this is fine how they do it, right? Getting in the transfer portal. But if they're ever going to be a 3, 4, 5 seed, you and I, we've talked about this immensely. It starts with building your guys through high school recruiting and,
you have to
and
want
developing
to.
them.
You have to want to, because look at They wanted to make Nick Janowski a point guard.
Yeah.
Okay, he didn't want to play point guard. He's going to be at St. Thomas. So he's in the summer league. He's back to playing as a shooting guard. They need and I'm high on him, but then I pause because of the history of high school kids in Nebraska's program of playing right away is Quentin Rhymes. I think Quentin Rhymes was a nice pickup for Nebraska, and he's 6'6". Well, leave him as a small forward. Don't make him something that he can't be.
Yeah.
But get him here and have him play. The days of redshirting guys are over. Like if Frager was not a Lincoln kid,
sure,
would he have bought in and said, yeah, you know what, I'll stick around for another year?
Probably not.
But Fred has to be comfortable with playing young guys because I know in the day and age of building through the portal, but at some point you have to have contributions for guys that are here for their first year, their second year, maybe even in their third year.
Yeah.
So if they leave and they play their fourth year somewhere else, you got 3 years out of them. But at least you got them on a path where they're not a one and done. Because Janowski is a loss. I think he'll be really good in the summer league, but he'll be back to the position they should play. I don't know why they wanted him to be a point guard. That didn't make sense to me. And I can see why he caught some of us off guard by leaving.
Sure.
We're like, yeah, you're not a point guard. Nebraska wanted him as a point guard.
I think this is another adaptation of like the new changing era of college basketball, in my opinion, right? And we've already seen the staff, taken on head on, if you will, with how much talent they've acquired from the portal and how much they've used from the portal. But I think another part of them adapting is understanding that, hey, maybe in the past, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, you could redshirt these guys and you could convince them, hey, sitting a year is going to be what's best for you. Over the last 3 years, I mean, it's just year in and year out at this point. They have tried doing that and they have been successful. And I think you just kind of have to take a risk
Fred has done this.
and change a little bit,
So Fred's philosophy is I worry about the top 7 to 8.
Yeah.
I don't worry about the guys at the bottom because you can get new guys at the bottom.
But I agree with the whole you can get new guys at the bottom, but if the guys at the bottom are freshmen, if they're guys coming out of high school and then they're always just leaving and you're always bringing in another freshman and then they're leaving, you're not building anything, Now, if you're not worried about the guys at the bottom, the guys at the bottom are like seniors or juniors or whatever, I think that's a little bit different. But when it's guys that maybe in 2 or 3 years could be building blocks for you, I think you have to worry about them at least at the bottom.
I'm with you. I don't know. That's never really been a staple of Fred. Fred takes care of his top 7 to 8 guys, and he develops them and he works with them. And then the bottom guys, you go, why are they at the bottom? Unless somebody jumps up and surprises you, you go, damn, Cale Jacobson. Yeah. That's just been their philosophy. Now, the story about Quentin Rhymes, it would be a better story if his dad was Busta.
It would be.
Nice.
It would be. If he was, can you imagine if they had like MC Hammer's kid on the team? That would be, or like, can you imagine you had like 3 guys with the last name Hammer, Rhymes, and Rule? Yeah, we got Busta Rhymes, MC Hammer, and Ja Rule's kid.
Jan Hammer.
Yeah, we have a Mathers on the team. Really?
Or how uncomfortable would it be if his dad was Buster, who played for, I think, 11 years, Jimmy, at Oklahoma?
Yes.
I think he was the first to have no eligibility requirements.
Mm-hmm. It's very much like Perry Ellis at Kansas.
But let's see.
Perry Ellis.
Let's see when Buster would have, to have a kid that would be a freshman in college.
You're doing the math.
He would have started late.
Oh, yeah.
Because Buster was 1980.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was 80 to 84 at Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He might be a little bit older. He'd be an older dad.
Do we look at Perry Ellis a little bit better nowadays? Because it's like, man, I look at Perry Ellis and I'm like, that's kind of impressive that he was able to get all of that eligibility even before the chaos happened.
Look at Perry Ellis like I look at the late, great Moses Malone. Both had 20-year careers, long time, played the similar position. The only difference is
Hunter Dickinson's coming back.
See, there you go. Faux.
At some point we're going to get to, it's like there's a zero eligibility. Like there's just, you can play in college as long as you want, as long as you're taking classes. And that's just going to be the absolute death of college sports.
It's coming. Evan Bland.
And then trades.
He's going to join us.
I think trades are a better idea than no eligibility.
So I don't want to bring this up. Didn't Nebraska basketball last week complete a trade?
Oh yeah. They did complete a trade.
What we didn't know at the time that
They did complete
Kendall
the trade.
Blue was
Yeah.
acquired from St. Thomas for a player to be named
Later. Wow.
And Nebraska sent Nick Janowski so he could be close to home in Milwaukee to St. Paul.
Look, if they want to opt into it, I'm all for it. I think it's a good idea. If you opt in.
You opt in once you sign your national letter of intent.
No. If you sign a different piece of paper that says this team can trade me, and then you get traded, I think that would be a good system.
I mean, what if Nebraska went to North Dakota State and said, "Hey, I know Marty Brown has requested a trade. You guys just lost a NFL lineman.
Yeah.
You've lost another good one to the portal. We got a guy that's a backup here, but wants to play more and wants to get paid more. We'll send him to Fargo. You send Marty Brown. And then we'll say a player to be named later.
And a
so
bag
it's
of
2 for 1.
footballs. And old turf.
Evan Bland of the World Herald joins us next. All right, now we have nothing to do for 121 days. That's when Nebraska and Cincinnati play. What are we going to do, Evan Bland of the World Herald? We got 121 days to come up with stuff after witnessing the Husker games.
Well, yeah, the spring stock chart's going to last you a couple of days. You'll have the road race this summer. I don't know. I can't help you there very much. It's going to be quite the slog, and we don't even have spring game footage to pour back on. Really, I mean, we can be talking about Dylan Raiola's deep shot from downtown.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a challenge. You guys are going to be earning your money for sure.
Yeah. So, it was there wasn't a lot to take away from the football stuff, but it was intriguing to see a couple of guys, whether it be, hey, Jaden Doss healthy, he's running free in the secondary, or like a Christian Jones, who I thought looked like he fit, being there for his first spring. Any other observations on the football part that stood out to you?
I thought some of the young D linemen looked pretty good. I mean, Mason Goldman had his moments out there. David Huffkin, kind of an interesting story from Germany and started out on the O-line. I thought he looked the part as a guy. And maybe there aren't going to be a ton of them in the future with the roster limitations, but it seems like a guy who could end up being a pretty good developmental story for Nebraska, if not this season, then at some point in the future. So I think the secondary had its moments with some nice plays. I thought TJ Lateef showed some of the physical raw qualities that made him a 4-star quarterback, a little bit of mobility. And I mean, he's only been on campus a few months, but you can kind of tell where that thing, maybe the potential is there. So yeah, I mean, it was good. I kind of wish there would have been a little bit more of a flow to it. You get into a quarter's worth of action, and then you take a break and do something very different from football, and then you go back to it. But it seemed like if the purpose was to kind of see what some of these guys are made of in front of a crowd, put some film out there for some guys who maybe are going to enter the portal, and then other guys just sort of proving what they can do in a live setting, I think it was probably mission accomplished.
Do you think it's an overreaction to be concerned about what happens if Dylan Raiola goes down with an injury after watching the target practice and the target game and the limited snaps we saw at the Husker games? Or is this just kind of a product of, well, we don't get to see this team a lot, and so we're going to overreact to small things?
Well, I mean, I think Raiola obviously is the guy. He's got the pedigree. He has the ability, and that showed in that section. He was the one hammering that bullseye, and he was the one who hit the basketball shot and hit the tackling dummy. So I suppose the talent that he shows in those other areas sort of spills over into that sort of an event. But I don't know that it changed my opinion on kind of the state of Nebraska's quarterback room. We knew they had young guys in Lateef and Davila who are former 4-star guys who are essentially true freshmen. I mean, Davila was at Purdue last year, but he redshirted, and so it didn't really surprise me that Gramstad was the number 2 because of what he did at the NAIA level, because of just his intangibles, because Dylan Raiola asked him specifically to return. So I think that's kind of to me, that's the great unknown of that room. It is obviously you don't want Dylan to get hurt or there's going to be a drop off. And I think almost every team in the nation would say that from their number 1 to their number 2, but we haven't seen Gramstad in any sort of a live setting since he was, at the NAIA level. And we didn't see it in the spring, and he had his moments in the skills competition. But I think that's the big mystery, at least publicly, is how different does Nebraska's offense look with a guy like Gramstad instead of Raiola, where maybe the arm talent's a little different, the mobility is a little bit different. I do think he has the respect and the command of the offense, probably somewhat similar to Dylan, but typically in the spring, these are sort of questions that we can have answered, or at least have a little bit of film to go back and look at and see what a guy is made of. And in this case, if you get into September or October and Nebraska needs a spot start from somebody, man, it's going to be, I think it's just an unknown to see what he does when he comes in, because we haven't seen it.
What do you think we'll see outside of the natural growth and more familiarity with what his OC is thinking? What do you think the next time we see Dylan in organized activities, whether it might not even be until the game at Arrowhead 121 days from now, what do you think will look different about him?
Well, I mean, physically, I think he's continuing to reshape his body. That looked more evident to me as spring went on, that he's leaned up and has really put an emphasis on being more mobile. The other piece, I'll be curious to see how Nebraska wants to change its tempo. Like they tended to be a huddle up team. They're very deliberate with their pace, and that's not necessarily Dana Holgerson's track record. So there was some talk this spring about them wanting to move a little bit faster, having the pieces to move a little bit faster. In some ways, like I think when you're evaluating the offense, like Dylan Raiola could be almost the same guy. Like say he was the same guy next year as he was this past year, but you've now surrounded him with a new crop of skill players. You've now put a veteran offensive coordinator in his ear, in his helmet, that he can bounce off of, and Nebraska is going to pare down what it does and probably accentuate his strengths in the play calls that he has. Like I think just those changes alone are going to show some progress for just statistically and in terms of scoring. But then you factor in what guys like Matt Rule said, where Dylan maybe is 10 steps ahead of where he was last year, whatever that may mean. I think that all does kind of add up to being more bullish on Nebraska's offense than we've been probably in quite a while. Certainly through the Frost era and the end of the Mike Riley era, like there just weren't that many explosive offenses. And it seems like this group does have that potential through what it did in the portal. And again, through having a quarterback who's not only a veteran coming back, but has some 5-star pedigree like Raiola.
Evan, the spring is over. What did you learn?
I learned a lot of small stuff. Maybe I think I learned, like that Justin Evans is probably going to be a pretty good center. Mm-hmm. Like that was a question, like what that position, what the offensive line would look like. Sure. I kind of feel like that was a group that created some confidence in what it can be. I would say the same thing probably for the defensive line. We see what guys like Riley Van Poppel have done, and Elijah Judy settling into his role, and Gabe Moore coming in. I think he probably was a stock up kind of guy out of the portal. So I think I feel better personally about both of the Lions and what they have. The other thing that I kept an eye on all spring was like, what's the integration of all these new coaches going to be like? Because you're not only talking about a new portal class, but so many new staffers. And I think you get to the end of this thing and it just kind of feels very natural with what Dana Holgerson's doing. It feels like Nikhil Shorts has been there for a while. You hear some of the guys talk about Terry Braden on the defensive line and how he's helping them work with new pass rush moves and how these guys can't really say no to him because of his street cred with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, I just feel like there were a lot of those kind of stories where it felt like that transition to this new staff was pretty seamless, and you're kind of moving into the Matt Rule 2.0 staff as you enter year 3 here, and so it just feels like it's very simpatico. It feels like this is a group that's pretty aligned in what they want to do, and of course now it all has to play out on the field. But I think sort of some of the intangible stuff, the things that a lot of schools are working through in terms of new roster, new staff, it kind of feels like Nebraska is ahead of the game in a lot of ways, just again with the people they brought in, but then who they have back to. It feels like it's been very smooth.
So before things got kicked off at the Carnival on Saturday, I'm standing next to a couple of your colleagues, Tom and Sam, and Tom says, we were looking out over the field, and he goes, "What is this?" and as he was writing his column in the press box when I left to go sit in the stands, he still was a little befuddled. And, Sam's a football guy, so Sam wanted football. You covered the whole kind of day. What's your review of how this all went with this, something that Nebraska has tried? And do you think they will try it again next year?
Well, I don't know if they'll.
That was a deep sigh, Evan Bland. That you could probably end the answer right then and there.
Well, I don't know how. I don't know that you can necessarily roll it back the same way. One, because I think they want to play a game, and circumstances this year were so unique with the portal, with what they did last year. I feel like the guardrails around things maybe are going to be different.
Sure.
Next year, the garage sale, for what it's worth, like that was the accumulation of more than 10 years worth of stuff. Yeah. So like in theory, you could do that again next year, but they're not going to have nearly the inventory. So I think this year that set that apart. Could you do the Osborne Legacy Complex tours again? Sure. But I think most of the people, or a good number of people that were going to pay $50 a head to take that tour, and because of how new it is, that's probably seen its best return on investment there, just in terms of those things. So I don't know. Like if you don't go back to the traditional spring game, then I think you probably have to continue to be creative and do some other things. I thought the best parts about Saturday were the impromptu things. It was Dylan Raiola outside the Hawks Center at noon because fans saw him and he's signing autographs, or it was just these different things that popped up. I think the turnout, the numbers speak for itself. I mean, Nebraska went from 60,000 plus the last few years to, I think it was probably about maybe 8,000 people would be my guess from what we saw in the stands. So like, I mean, that's a pretty strong statement right there. I know Nebraska said they sold probably about 11,000 tickets, and a good number of those went to people who wanted to get into the equipment sale or go to volleyball or whatever else it might be. So I think you probably have to adjust it in some capacity. It'll be curious if they go back to the spring game, because I think there were a lot of schools around the country that still did have traditional spring games that probably would say they didn't regret it and that they would do it again. And so if you're Matt Rule and you look up into the stands this past weekend, I mean, you love it for that to be fuller and for Husker Nation to really be out and be able to celebrate football. So I don't think it'll be what it was next year, or what it was this year, next year. But I don't know that it's going to go back to what it was before, just because of how much stuff has changed. But man, it is wild when you've got the smell of chicken wings on the field and you've got tractor tires out there and mechanical horses and cattle. Like it's a different deal, man. But I think they did make the most of a very odd situation.
Hey, if it gets approved, what do you think is more likely to happen? That Nebraska scrimmages or practices with another football program at Memorial Stadium next year, or they just go back to the spring game?
Well, Matt Rule's, I think he's on record as saying he would be interested in a possible exhibition if it were to come to that. And really, I mean, let's be real. Like if you go that way, it's a revenue stream in the modern times. Like if you're playing Kansas State or somebody like that, I mean, that draw a decent crowd. So I think Nebraska's pretty open-minded about that sort of stuff. I know the NCAA shut down Colorado and Syracuse this year, in part, really mainly because the idea came about too late and they didn't want them to maybe have an edge or whatever. So maybe that does become sort of a thing next year. I still think, Nebraska playing a spring game is probably the way to go, especially if you're still above 105. If you have guys grandfathered in, I mean, you should have enough numbers and guys to do that. And maybe it's a half of live action and a part practice. I mean, that we've seen Nebraska draw decently well last fall when they had that open practice. I think there's some value in that too, just to see what guys go through and how you're kind of getting better in the moment. But I would say one thing from the football portion of the event Saturday that did seem to resonate with fans that I spoke with anyway, were that you actually got to see their personalities a little bit, right? Like you think about just the fan experience, you go to a spring game, maybe you see a part of a practice, and you have the games, of course, well, this was an opportunity to see these guys as people. The helmets were off, the pads were off, they were having fun, they were yucking it up, they were still showing what they could do. And I think there were a subset of fans that appreciated seeing sort of the human side of this thing, not all football robots, but a little bit of personality and humor and things that went into that. So I think if you can incorporate some element of that into the future, I do think people maybe appreciated that more than they expected to.
I will get you out of here on this. A quick baseball question. If the family is thinking about, should we buy a Big Ten tournament pass, now tied for 10th with a couple of other teams, 3 weekends to go, should they buy a Big Ten tournament pass? Do you think now Nebraska is inside of that 12 comfortably?
Not comfortably, but they are in there. Yeah, I mean they're right back in the mix. You had to have that one Sunday against the Maryland team that really has no pitching depth to speak of, and that obviously played out over the weekend. You look at your last 3 opponents. I mean, Minnesota and Purdue are below you in the standings. They're tied. Michigan's just barely above you right now. I think they're in 11th. So if you win all 3 of your weekends, you go 2-1, you're going to finish the league schedule at 500, and that should be enough to get you in based on what you've seen. You'd love a sweep, but you stub your toe, you drop a series, you're probably in danger of finishing below 500 in league play. So that traditionally, before it's gone to a 12-team league, that's always been right on the bubble, and it looks like that's going to be the case again. It's a wild team, man, because every time you think Nebraska maybe is going to go on a run, they lose games like they did in the midweek and on Friday. And then when you're ready to throw dirt on them and you say, man, they're going to lose this series to Maryland, they come back and they look pretty good on Saturday and Sunday. And suddenly their RPI is as good as it's been since late February. And I mean, here's how wacky it is. I mean, Iowa leads the Big Ten, 20-4 league record. Their RPI is less than 10 spots better than Nebraska. So you think Nebraska's on the outside looking in terms of at large, like that's Iowa too. So it speaks to how tough this schedule's been for Nebraska. And as much as it feels like the last few weeks we've wanted to sort of have this statement of finality, like, yes, maybe they are going to make a run, or no, they're not. Like it's still in sort of that limbo stage in between where you win enough games down the stretch, you can still play yourself back into that spot, but you lay some eggs on the weekend and you're not going to make Omaha. So it's a very interesting spot. I still think they've got enough. The schedule lines up to make the Big Ten tournament. But obviously this team's been so up and down, it's going to be wild to watch.
Yeah. Well, we'll buckle up and go through another week with an 8-game homestand starting. Evan, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Evan.
Evan Bland of the World Herald. If you're not familiar with the new Big Ten baseball format, have fun. You only guaranteed 2 games because there are 4 pools, 3 teams each. Can Iowa and Oregon, if Nebraska doesn't make it, save the Big Ten tournament at the Downtown Day Trader? Because Oregon is a wagon right now. They just swept Oregon State. Iowa's in a good spot to possibly win the regular season. I think Nebraska has now jumped in where they're going to be okay. But if you are, let's say, what do you want to say? They're a 11 seed. They would play the first game of the tournament at 10 a.m.
Jeez.
Yeah. So and then play the next day at 10 a.m.
Oregon is the top, or is not the top team. The top team in the Big Ten for RPI is UCLA. They're currently at 17th. Oregon at 34.
Thank God for the West Coasters.
Yes.
You are saving Big Ten baseball.
Massive.
Big weekend, though. Minnesota comes to town. Minnesota's playing really, really well under their new head coach. All right, take a break, come back. Still got another hour to go as well on Gary Mountains, 1620 The Zone. So the Big East tournament is out in Mason, Ohio. Creighton's in a good spot to win the regular season, which would be a nice addition to Ed Service's man cave. Nebraska's in a better position to make the conference tournament. Omaha, after winning 203 in Greeley, in a good spot to make their conference tournament. The Big Ten tournament is at the Down Day Trader.
Yes.
If Nebraska doesn't make it, that tournament gets ignored in this town, except for the Bumblebees who will cross the river and come in and put butts in seats. But other than that, local media won't talk about it. Just like give the scores. We like the year that recently when Nebraska wasn't in it, I don't think we mentioned it.
Really?
We're baseball guys. We're like, no one's going there. No one's talking about it.
Wow.
They don't, it's not like the Big Ten is buying up advertising.
No.
Say, hey, we're here. The Summer League tournament is over at Tal Anderson. But they all pale in comparison. And after watching a lot of SEC baseball this weekend with the incredible series at Baton Rouge between Tennessee and LSU, or the 3-gamer between Texas and Texas A&M where Texas swept A&M, all 3 one-run wins, college baseball is in trouble.
Why do you say that?
If you're in a Big East and the Big Ten and you're not Oregon or UCLA,
you don't got a shot.
The gap is just SEC baseball is pretty special. It is like really special. And the rest of baseball, maybe a little bit in the ACC because they got Clemson that's rolling right now. Everybody's going to get ignored. I would, if I was Oregon and UCLA, I'd be livid that I'm in the new Big Ten with my baseball program.
Oh my God. I mean, we were talking about, and this has been a conversation for years, that there are other sports that are just going to straight up suffer because we have football on the mind all the time. And this is a case in point example of the Pac-12, who had great baseball for so long, suffering, and those teams who were in the Pac-12 suffering because now they moved to the Big Ten.
Nothing can touch the atmospheres. I mean, they and that's why ESPN broadcasted. Not only the relationship with the SEC, they know there's going to be butts and seats, going to be a great atmosphere. The atmosphere at Dish Falk, this field, great. Still don't know why they have an all-turf field that still has the old cutouts at first, second, and third.
They just like that heat radiating off.
Yeah. All right, one more hour to go. A couple of good comments about the garage sale. Not necessarily positive, but for people that were there. Also, I will mention what I thought was one of the bigger takeaways from Saturday inside of Memorial Stadium. That's when we come back for the last hour. Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. All right, I think sports were better.
Here we go again.
When people weren't friends.
You mean Rick Mahorn and Michael Jordan didn't shake hands?
So you can be respectful,
but you don't have to be friends.
Sports was better when everybody wasn't friends. Like yesterday.
Yeah, we need more hate.
Yesterday in the Laker T-Wolf game, Ant-Man, who had 43, who's shoved LeBron. He respects LeBron, but he doesn't want to be friends. Like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that respected Jordan, and he respected other players. Maybe he wouldn't admit it out loud, but he didn't want to be friends with them. Okay? Kobe was the same way. We got too many superstars in sports that want to be friends with each other.
Much hand-holding.
Sports was better when you had the respect.
Yeah.
You always, game respects game. But I don't want to be friends with you. And I saw that yesterday because everybody's like, oh my God, that's his idol. Well, no, he respects him. But he doesn't want to be friends with LeBron. Everybody wants to be friends with LeBron. You know what? No, be like Ant-Man, score 43 and have the T-Wolves up 3-1 in a series that it should surprise nobody because they're a terrible matchup for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
and
first off,
scored them in the fourth
everyone's
quarter,
like
105-69 this series.
That's
105-69 in the fourth quarter.
So first off, I do want to make this very clear. The last couple of years, LeBron has done no favors in terms of the clutch metric, okay? Because
he ain't no Jalen Brunson.
We've been holding on to this whole LeBron is actually clutch if you look at the analytics. The last couple of years, there are multiple three-pointers off of the top of my head that LeBron has just straight up missed that would have been able to lock down a game and help his team win a series. That's besides the point. Ant-Man's idol is KD, which makes this even better. The fact that Anthony Edwards grew up idolizing KD and loving KD. So when you think about that, like the rivalry that they have has been awesome. At the same time,
and by the way, he beat KD last year in the first round of the playoffs.
The whole thing, though, what I absolutely hate about all this is all the people on Twitter being like, this is why LeBron isn't the greatest of all time. LeBron doesn't have the Mamba mentality. LeBron doesn't have the killer instinct. This is why Jordan and Kobe will always be better than LeBron. Jordan and Kobe would never get pushed like that. Let me tell you something right now. LeBron won 4 titles, has won 4 titles. Get out of here with the whole he doesn't have a killer instinct, okay? You're not a 4-time NBA champion without a killer instinct. Okay?
Or Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh.
Well, I mean, look, Michael Jordan is not a 6-time champion without Scottie Pippen, okay? Kobe Bryant is not a 5-time champion without Shaquille O'Neal.
Actually,
we can play this game.
Two of them
Jimmy,
came without
Jimmy,
it.
we can play this game all day.
We can.
We can play this game all day. I think LeBron definitely has contributed to the factor of like it's okay to be cool with people. And I do think that has elevated the softness of the game, and that has allowed a negative connotation to be ruminated throughout the NBA, that NBA players are soft, because
he said it right there.
This is a fact. This is a fact.
Oh, hey, look at the Eastern Conference playoffs that are
going on.
Hey, soft. Detroit, New York, welcome back.
Well, but there's this
basketball.
there's this attitude that NBA players are soft. The basketball players are soft, and I think that did in part start because LeBron started being buddy with everybody, and everybody looked up at LeBron and were like, "Oh, if he's being friends with everyone, we can be friends with everybody."
I think
that's for sure. It's follow the leader. It's follow the leader for sure, because Kevin Garnett for a while could be looked at as the top dog of the NBA, and he hated everybody. And he couldn't. If you weren't on his team, he didn't mess with you. And when he was playing in the 2000s, and the Celtics were good and they were winning games, everybody in the Eastern Conference hated each other. And then LeBron beat him, and then LeBron became buddy with everybody. And now everybody wants to hold hands and go to Cancun and sing Kumbaya, while the only guy who doesn't seem like he interacts with anyone is Nikola Jokic.
Ironically, LeBron will be able to go to Cancun after this week.
Let me take Luka with him. Luka had 38 yesterday.
Luka looked tired at the end.
See how many assists that Luka had?
2.
Luka falls down a lot.
Yeah. Perfect teammate for LeBron.
Like the beginning of the game yesterday, and even some, not necessarily offensively in the fourth quarter, but defensively. I mean, there are moments almost in every game where you go, Jesus, he's 40 years old and he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I would like
that part is true.
I would like to see a full breakdown of all the times late in games and clutch situations where LeBron passed the ball and the shot was missed.
Oh my God. Danny Green. Danny Green in 2020.
Is that list?
But he made like that will always be the problem with him in terms of
Hachimura yesterday. That who missed the last one?
No, Reeves. Reeves in the corner.
Sorry.
And it was a good shot, and he faded away, and he didn't really have to fade away. That will be a constant discussion that we have about LeBron and his career, the fact that like you'll have one side being like, he's the alpha, he should be Michael, he should go ahead and make the last shot. And then there will be people who argue, well, he's just making the right play. I just want to throw out there, Michael did pass to John Paxson. Okay. So like he made it. That is things that have happened that your greatest of all time has done. Contrary to popular belief, Michael Jordan's last second shot in Game 6 against the Utah Jazz in 1998 didn't happen every game, did not happen every playoff series, did not happen every championship.
They usually kick someone's team's ass. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
But here's your opportunity on National Superhero Day. Steph Curry plays tonight. Steph Curry is a must-watch in any big game for Golden State. We have some news surrounding.
Do we need the thing?
No, I don't think we need the thing. I'm going to read you some quotes from Canes Sport, which is the On3 site that covers the Miami football program, the U. Later today, according to Canes Sport, Marty Brown will announce where he is going to go to school next year. He is down to 2 programs. One of those is Miami. The other, the story, is believed to be Nebraska.
Where we live.
All righty.
So he visited Miami this time last week, then was at Nebraska on Thursday. We know that he was at Cal. So Canes Sport actually talked to Marty Brown. I don't believe he has talked to anybody in the Nebraska media publicly.
Okay.
So these are the quotes out of the story. Now, remember, this is written from the Miami viewpoint. Mm-hmm. Quote, I'm trying to make an announcement today. It's Miami and just one other school in it.
They don't. Okay. So we don't.
No, this is the quote from Marty Brown. There's just one other school in it. And Canes Sports said it feels like it's Nebraska. This is Marty Brown talking about his Miami visit. Quote, they showed a lot of love. We talked about everything. What makes Miami a great fit for me is I come from an offense that is physical, tough, and I feel like having that aspect to it of me doing the same thing in the ACC will bring wonders to the offense, something that's missing, something that can wear out the defense. Now, remember, whenever you read these, it's not like Canes Sport gets on here and just, they're a Miami site.
Yes.
They got Miami people that click on the articles. More, quote, I feel like it can be that guy to punish the defense, also make stuff happen as well, get first downs. That's what really matters. Keep the chains moving and make these big runs as well. A final question for Brown. This is from the Canes Sport author. Does one school have an edge over the other as we sit here on Monday morning? It's about 50-50.
Wow.
Brown says, adding that the current NIL offers from both schools are relatively similar.
Wow.
Whoa, Nebraska.
Whoa.
Okay, so Nebraska and Miami, toss-up to get the services of running back Marty Brown. Does not give an exact time, but he'd like to have the announcement at some point today. That article is on Canes Sport.
I wonder how busy his agent is. I mean, you got to think that this is probably coming down to calling both sides, right? And being like, hey, this is what they're offering. This is what you're offering. Where are we at? You're
least likely to play that game would be team down the road.
By the way, I'm assuming and speculating that when you announce, hey, it's going to be today, we don't know when it's going to be today, it's down to 2 schools, it's 50-50, that is all the signs point toward, hey, my agent's going to be on the phone and see how much we can get from either side. I mean, or maybe he already has a decision of where he wants to go. He's going to go there no matter what, and he's going to see what his value, what his max value could be.
I don't know about playing both sides. But the biggest takeaway here, is Marty saying it's 50-50.
Cal's out.
And that current NIL offers from both schools are relatively similar because the word had been last week that Miami threw a big bag at him. Now, Nebraska does have some leftover money that they can utilize, but that shows you that it's more than just okay, we're interested. Might be of need, or it might be, screw Miami, we'll beat somebody because we'll throw a message out there that we do have a bag.
Sure.
If you're good enough and we think you're good enough, we have a bag. It plays down the road. So that's what I find kind of interesting. Good on Nebraska, because I don't think Marty would just throw that out there. because Miami has a tendency to throw out a lot of money. But I have no idea.
And for a long time.
I honestly have no idea where this is going. I when Marty says 50-50,
Yeah.
it's 50-50. But if I'm looking at running back rooms, there is definitely a path to play more, but who made him more of a priority in the offense?
Sure.
Not as running back, but in the whole offense. I think that's what ultimately will come down to as well.
I think that for him, I mean, I think I think just the vibe has been Miami has given him maybe a little bit more. That's what the vibe that I've been getting is Miami has given him more attention. But at the same time, he knows that if he comes here to Nebraska, that he is going to get the ball, that he is going to run the ball in Big Ten play, that he is going to be a pretty big part of this offense. I think that Nebraska can say that. Miami can say that, but definitely more likely to happen in Lincoln than for the Hurricanes. So I think that, that's a factor that's playing in Nebraska's favor. And like I said, if it's 50-50, I mean, you just hope though, like early on in the Matt Rule era, we had the idea or sentiment that, hey, it's good that they're competing with these teams. It's good that they're competing with teams that have a lot of money, that have been at the top of the food chain, that have won more in the last couple of years than Nebraska. But now we're at the point where it's no longer good enough to compete with them. You have to start beating them. And they have done that. And they have done that in the transfer portal and whatnot. I don't know if this, in terms of beating Miami, is as big of a priority as it's been beating other teams for other prospects. But, I mean, you can only finish second so often. And this is a position of need for me, in my opinion, massively. And if they can lock him up, that'd be big for him.
People are scrambling now to hit refresh to see the portal if there is a Nebraska running back in the portal, and that would be your dead giveaway.
That would be your dead giveaway.
So some point today, just out of the blue, probably in very typical Marty fashion, very understated young man who is represented by a very popular company. Just throw it out on Instagram. That's where kids go now. They just throw it on the gram.
There you go.
And then a coach might do a boom. Might get a Denzel Washington.
I was about to
meme.
say a GIF. They always use the GIFs. They don't really say words anymore.
Yes. We don't have cowbell anymore.
What's it with
those were the fun days when we'd have cowbell. We'd have cowbell during the College World Series. But Pooches would be picking up recruits right and left, and he'd go with the cowbell.
How many GIFs do you think are in that SEC coaches group chat? Do you think that's just how they communicate with each other?
Just GIFs?
Just no words, just GIFs. Just GIFs and emojis.
We'll see. Okay, when we come back, there was one bright spot that came out of the Husker games. And also, I got to read this email about a fan that encountered a little greediness at the garage sale that he'd like to share a story. We'll do that when we come back on Gary and Madden, 1620 The Zone. All right, Mike writes into the Equitable Bank inbox, Gary at 1620thezone.com. He said, I must preface this by something you said earlier that I agree with. I took my 2 kids and their 2 friends. They had a great time. I was don't know if I would do it again because I was expecting a little bit more football, but my kids had a great time and they got quite a few autographs. But our day started at the garage sale. He goes, we were in Lincoln relatively early to get in where stuff was still available. My problem, and he goes, I may have embarrassed my kids. I spoke out to a gentleman who was hoarding stuff off the garage sale. I watched him go through jerseys, not necessarily these are the ones I'm going to buy.
Sure.
He took the jerseys and he walked away and then went and sat down and went through the jerseys that he wanted and then took the ones that he didn't and threw them back on the pile. I also saw a woman who was guarding stuff that had been taken and put in a pile, but it just looked like a lot of stuff. There was no rhyme or reason. We came away with a nice haul. I'm not disappointed.
Sure.
I was not expecting this to be a hoarding convention of collectors.
I'm not surprised.
I'm gonna.
Here's why you didn't get your quarters in.
Neither am I, and I'll tell you right now, I was not involved in those people because I didn't get in line early enough to be involved with those people. The people I was with were all just mom and pop. Hey, we're looking for a couple items to buy or whatnot. So I didn't see any of the chaos that happened. But I got in line, like I told you, 20 minutes before the doors even opened. And I didn't get an opportunity to get anything in terms of wow, that's really cool or really available. You had to dig.
To be fair, we did give you a plan.
Find things. And I don't know how you can, once again, unless you put 25 different people, right? And you tell them, hey, this is going to be a really tough job, but you have to be security essentially and make sure that people aren't doing some really, crappy things or taking advantage of the situation. Unless you do that, I don't know how you could avoid this. Now, I do have an idea for next year. So I know that this is every 10 years worth of stuff. So they had a lot of things to get rid of. Now, what if you did it next year? And you said, all right, clearly we're not going to have as many things as we did last year. So we're going to sell tickets. We're going to have a code. We're going to send out an email. We're going to only have 1,000 tickets sold. Once the tickets get sold, first come, first serve. You buy it for $10. That's your ticket. You come into the garage sale and then you can buy whatever you want. That way you have a smaller group of people for smaller groups of items that if people are willing to hop in the email line and be prepared and be willing to do it, then they get rewarded with, hey, you're able to go to the garage sale. I think if they wanted to do this on eBay, if they wanted to do this as a yearly thing, but I just wish what they could have easily done is just said, hey, you can only grab 6 items per person. That's it. Because there are a lot of people who because
there were no stipulations, right?
There was zero. There was zero stipulations, zero rules for anything. And I'm sure that there was a long line behind me that I can't imagine that unless you were a double, triple XL or you had size 13, 14, 15 feet, which is not a lot of people do, how they got really anything worth of value other than 2 posters and a mug, which those people who were behind me probably got in line at the beginning of the event, got there at 9 a.m. So it's a little disappointing. You're that as many that there was that a lot of the things that we thought would happen in terms of collecting an eBay happened. It's disappointing in that regard. And you were hoping that maybe it wouldn't have been as rampant, but it is what it is.
You look at what side are you on, Jimmy?
I'm on the eBay.
Okay, because
there's a lot of great stuff.
Facebook Marketplace has a lot of stuff.
I mean, it's also too, this stuff was so cheap. It was everything was 10, 20, $25. There weren't just, you could come away with really good hauls worth of stuff. And it's the markup on some of these prices. I saw the John Cook bobblehead is at $80 and they were selling them for $10 on Facebook Marketplace or whatnot. I wouldn't mind too if the markups weren't so high. If You bought a John Cook bobblehead and then you put it on Facebook for like 20 or 25. I don't mind that because I think I would pay $20 for a John Cook bobblehead. And then, hey, you double your money. Like, good for you. Like, that's a good investment. The fact that it's all the way up to 80 is crazy.
Andrew tweets at the show. The people that made me mad were the people that went and bought a ton of stuff and then merely put it on eBay or Marketplace for double the price. Douche canoers.
They are.
Andrew didn't say that. I've added the douche canoers.
I mean, that just wasn't.
But nobody's surprised, unfortunately.
The spirit of the event was not that. The spirit of the event was, hey, you guys have rooted for these specific teams for a while. Here's an opportunity for you to grab some memorabilia to make a deeper connection between you and the teams that you watch. And you get to put it up in your man cave or have, a seat in your office and tell people, yeah, that's an actual seat or that's an actual game-worn jersey. And it turned into a...
But is it a few are ruining the perception?
Yes.
Or was it a majority?
No.
Okay.
No, I think it's a few. I don't think this was a massive Now, Caleb Henry, good friend of mine, was there, and he got in line early, and he said it was an absolute circus.
I read his exchange with
you. Running in for the first time. But I do think this is very few people ruining the image for what was, I would still call, look, I'm very happy with with how the event went for me. I got a pair of very nice sweatpants. I got a pair of very nice shorts and a pair of shoes and a bunch of really cool memorabilia. And I'm going to display that memorabilia and I'm going to wear these clothes for quite a while. And I got them for $50.
The shoes was a great haul.
Yeah, incredible haul.
They did have a lot of shoes.
The shoes,
the helmet, so the football helmets went quick.
Gone.
And then a couple of the specific jerseys. Like I do know, I think I've met him one time. I think he's GBR Collector on Twitter. But his whole goal, I remember him once telling a story to somebody that his whole goal was to get every numbered jersey at Nebraska, like 1 through 99.
Yeah.
But the tougher ones are the Heisman Trophy winners in circulation.
Yeah.
So I would imagine he'd be somebody that was there early to try and buy some of those specific jerseys.
See, the
jerseys had names on the back, right?
I don't know. Okay. I did not see. I could not tell you. When I got there, a lot of things were gone. Like a lot of things were gone. And I'll tell you this too. The things that I did end up buying, I was there walking around for about 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Damn, that's a long time.
Yeah. Well, because
I went steps in.
I went through everything. I went through every pair of shoe. I went through every slide, every hat, I was trying to find some things. The things that I got, I probably found in the first 10 minutes.
Okay.
Like by the time I was done, it was crazy too. When you walk in and you see everything and then you go through everything. And then when you're checking out like 40 minutes later and you see just how much less of everything there is, I'll tell you this. When I was done, there were still some people walking in. They had no shot at getting anything that was there. Like,
did you say earlier that someone was, maybe it was you or an emailer, said there was somebody that brought a wagon?
Oh, there was a wagon. There was a dude who had a wagon, who had all these different pictures stacked up on the wagon, who had all these jerseys. Now, here's the funny thing, too. He had a lot of cool stuff. So I imagine that he was probably in that garage sale area for like an hour and a half to like 2 hours, just like rummaging everything. So I didn't see what the callers or what the emailer said, though, about like people hoarding things and then like organizing them. I didn't see any of that. But there was at one point, though, where I put my shorts down to go and open up some shoes, and someone tried grabbing my shorts. And like they grabbed my shorts and they looked at my shorts and I go, whoa, no, that's mine. I was just putting that down. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I grabbed him back, but it was a free for all, absolute free for all.
They'll just do this down the road. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, but I think there are other, like I've heard from people, emailers today, listeners, that they were able to get some stuff for their man cave, and get some clothing, but everybody is kind of along the same lines of
maybe sell an early admission type deal. I don't know what you do.
By the way, they forced everybody to buy a ticket to one event at the Husker games. I mean, at least that was a start. But this shouldn't surprise people that
extremely loyal fan base.
The collectors were there. It's just they ruined the experience for others.
Everybody else.
But I have to follow. I'm gonna follow up on this. Grabbing a bunch of stuff, but not wanting that stuff and going through it so that nobody else could get it while you have it and look at it. That's an interesting concept. I haven't been to a rummage sale, garage sale in a long time.
It was ridiculous.
There is, as the weekend went with the NFL and the draft. Do you follow Dov Kleiman?
I do follow Dov Kleiman. I think he's a very funny follow. It's hard to tell when Dov is being serious or not, or when it's actual news that I should be paying attention, or it's Dov being Dov. But I like Dov Kleiman.
Okay, let's play if he's serious or not.
Okay, this is a great game.
Because I think one of the cool things, and I'm all in on the Olympics in 2028 of flag football, I am now going to start following Midland University flag football.
Oh, yes, you were talking about this earlier.
They're a wagon. So they beat Nebraska's team 61-0. They are also they're not a club sport. They're an actual sanctioned sport for Midland. Midland's got 400 sports that are accredited.
Yeah.
Including e-games, which, it's pretty cool.
It's the future, man.
But they have the flag football, and it is the future. More and more states are sponsoring flag football at the girls level. Now, some are doing boys, or they just say, you're going to play 7-on-7 during the summer. But flag football is starting to pick up, especially with females. And now you're going to see flag football for males in the Olympics, where there are some NFL guys that are talking about playing, and we all could put together the most dominant NFL flag football team to play in Los Angeles in 2028. So they have an exhibition before the 2:00 carnival kicked off. They played for an hour. Again, 61-0.
Yeah.
Nebraska's flag football team for the ladies is club. So before you read in too much into it and think that the head coach should be fired,
call in.
I don't know if
this would be like regular Nebraska playing against Creighton. Okay, this is what it would be like. But Dov Kleiman has tweeted about the flag football game. Real? Was he being jokey Smurf, or was he telling the truth? Yikes. Nebraska quarterback Dylan Raiola gets sacked by linebacker Natji Blaylock in the Midland versus UNL women's flag football game. Raiola mimics his game and looks after Patrick Mahomes. Now, this got 4 million views.
Jeez.
And people believe it because it's on the internet.
He did kind of step right into the pressure.
He struggled. Yeah, he struggled.
If we're breaking this down here, he stepped right into the pass rusher. It was just not good pocket presence at all. And the pass rusher actually came around on the edge. So if he had more, I'm just saying, if he had a little more awareness, he could have stepped up earlier in the pocket. I'm kidding, by the way. Tongue in cheek. I'm being very tongue in cheek. I don't think he's cooking. I think he actually is. This is legitimate. Dub knows what he's doing.
So if you read the replies, that's probably not a thing you want to do.
I'm going to save it for the podcast.
Hey, good luck to the Midland ladies. I think it's this week they play in Kansas City. But
during the warm-ups.
But we need it. Wait, Nebraska. We need to spend some money.
Yeah.
And we need to take this from a club level to something under the athletic department.
During the warm-ups.
I'd have some winning football in Memorial Stadium.
I was watching both the Midland team and the Nebraska team. And you could tell right away, not just off of the practices, which you could tell, hey, Midland is going to win this football game, but also the drip. They got to get Nebraska women's flag football, some arm sleeves and some tape and some eye black or something. They were all wearing the generic shirts with no nothing. They were all just bare arm. Midland had all the arm sleeves and all the wrist tape and all the they had girls with some pit vipers on. They look good, feel good, play good.
How did I not know this?
Give it to me.
Coach Kerwin is their head coach. So James Kerwin, who everybody in the football community knows, who is the DC out of Elkhorn South. How did I not know he was the flag football coach? He's now in his second year. He has never shared that information with me.
They were running mesh. They were running levels concepts.
Coach Kerwin's a dude. Yeah.
They got to the red zone and they ran this little Tennessee route where it was the out route by the slot, and then the X ran a little flag and oh my God, it was absolutely beautiful. I was watching Midland women's flag football, incredibly impressed with how well coached they were. Their quarterback too, I don't know her name. She was awesome. She was on the run, rolling right, dropping dimes.
She is from Alaska. So this is the roster. This is the hometowns, the states on the Midland flag football roster. Georgia, California, suburban Las Vegas, Fort Lauderdale, Fremont. Shout out Morgan Kalasek, who's now in her 5th year. I wonder where she started. Got into the portal and then came back home. Hawaii.
Oh my lord!
Houston, Texas. St. Petersburg, Florida. Miramar, Florida. Another one from Anchorage, Alaska.
This is like a nationally recruited
girls/women's flag football must be big in Alaska because they're all 3 players are from West Anchorage High School in Alaska.
I used to watch Ice Road Truckers. I don't know
Hey,
if they talked about that.
You guys think I'm kidding? Midland has baseball, basketball, bowling, cross country, football, golf, hockey, lacrosse, powerlifting, soccer, swim and dive, tennis, track and field, wrestling on the men's side. Women's side, basketball, bowling, cross country, flag football, golf, hockey, lacrosse, powerlifting, soccer, softball, swim and dive, tennis, track and field, and volleyball. Co-ed sports, cheer, hold on here. Cheer, dance, esports, and shotgun sports.
What's shotgun sports?
I got Coach Kerwin coaching flag football, and I got the great Tyler Irwin coaching men's basketball over there. Shotgun sports at Midland is you shoot a shotgun.
Oh, I thought it was you shotgun a beer.
Very Midwest.
No, I don't think you can have that as a sport.
Dude, it's hard. That's a difficult thing to do.
That is a sport that is not on midlandathletics.com.
Can you imagine? Yeah, Rowdy's our leader. He can put a bush like that on 1.1.
This isn't good for Nebraska club team. Midland is only 8-7 this year.
Oh wow!
They are at they're in Kansas City, Kansas this weekend at the NAIA Invitation.
8-7, they could still make a wild card game.
Yeah, they
get in.
They got to win the win. You're in.
They beat Bethel.
They control their own fate.
Nothing.
If they're an average flag football team, what the heck is that?
They did not.
There was nothing about what I saw. Like even I'm not even talking about the people they played against. Just from their performance alone, there's nothing about average that I saw from Midland. Nothing.
8-4 in the SEC, different than 8-4 in the Mountain West.
Or are they in the SEC of women's flag football?
Did you pay to go watch like Nebraska and I don't know. Nebraska
yes.
and South Dakota play women's flag football in Memorial Stadium?
Yes, I would.
I would get credentialed.
There is Knoxville Chris, who was at the garage sale, has shared his haul with us. How was it?
Not bad actually. I told my dad, we had this plan for a while. I told him, we got in line. I said, if this becomes a Black Friday wall art fiasco, whatever you got in your hand, someone fights you for it, just drop it. Don't even bother. And thankfully, it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
I got what I call helmet shells, and then the face mask, and then I got the jersey shells as well, no numbers on them. And I know people that embroider things, so I'll have them embroidered for me and custom. So I thought it was pretty well overall, but to see people hoarding things like that, where they grab a handful of things and sit down and then put it back, that's ridiculous. But overall, I thought it was calm. Not bad at all, and really surprised that I was there at 7:30 and was probably 300th in line, and still got a pretty good selection of things there. So I would love them to do it again. It's well overdone, and I agree with your guys' conversation from last week that this just proves that there isn't enough official merchandise for fans.
Yes.
So the official side of things is garbage for Nebraska fans.
I agree.
Fans want pieces of these things. They want to buy them, and I think I'm always about. When I go to racetracks, even Gary, I don't do race shirts. I want unique things. I want something to display. Like, hey, I was there. So, like when I go to away games for Nebraska football, win or lose, I go to the bookstore. I buy the helmet of the team I'm at. USC. I went to UCLA last year. Colorado. That was tough to do after that loss in 23. But still bought the helmet. So I want things to display. So I wish the university would give that opportunity for fans to do that more often.
Hey, how quickly did those chairs go?
So the chairs, I bought 2 of them. I bought
Nice.
2 black ones with the wood ends, but I wanted to get the courtside chairs. Those were gone in the blink of an eye. They weren't even there. So I walked in, those were already gone. They were taken, but they did have some a lot of the black chairs with the wood and the back of them. I grabbed 2 of those for my office, and then one for the man cave downstairs, obviously. So that went pretty fast, and the helmet, the full helmets went quickly as well. But I thought for $50 for a helmet shell and $10 for a face mask, which runs for $80 by itself, was an extremely good deal. So make your own helmet and do what you want with it.
That's cool. Chris, thanks for the phone call, my
Thanks,
friend.
Chris.
No problem, guys.
I think this is something that they should regularly do, but I just think that there needs to be, and I don't need like full lockdown security, right? But just put some very like simple parameters. Hey, X amount of items per person, please don't be in here longer than this amount of time so we can get more people in. Maybe make it like you go in a line and you can only grab one of each. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but I do think like the concept of this event is great. I think that no matter how much stuff you have, whether it be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you're going to get people there. You just have to put in like a rule or two to hoard out or get rid of the people who are just there to make a buck on it. Because I don't have a problem with collectors. I don't have a problem with people buying things and collecting them and hanging them up. I just have a problem with them buying them just so they can, mark it up on Twitter or mark it up on Facebook Marketplace.
That latter part is the one that everybody's upset about this morning. Like, I don't think, everybody, hey, grab something for your man cave. That's great.
That's awesome.
But the reselling of stuff.
I really was rooting for you, Matt.
Because, Jimmy, there are so many, and they just got put up like within the last 48 hours.
Nice
John
stuff.
Cook bobbleheads.
Yeah.
How much are they priced at?
80 to 125.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Apparently, I saw on Twitter that, and I don't know if it's 100% true, but I just saw on Twitter that apparently one guy bought all of the John Cook bobbleheads, or a massive amount of John Cook bobbleheads.
Perhaps for Mayday baskets. Mm-hmm.
Was John's brother at the thing?
By the way, John,
they're like, hey, is that John Cook?
You'll say this at some point. John was a banger on TV the other night.
By the way,
he
John
could do
Cook-
that if he wants to.
John Cook looks so cool at the Nebraska Husker games. He just looked like a cool cat.
Living his best life.
I thought he looked even better on BTN.
Mm-hmm.
He
If
looked
that's
good.
something he wants to do, he's got to
He
get
should-
for
oh
it.
my God, he should do
He
it.
doesn't want to spend a lot of time in Lincoln, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's ready to go and be grandpa. But he looked really comfortable on TV with Larry the other night. All right, we'll come back. A couple of final thoughts, including what the hell, Joe Klatt on 1620 The Zone. I got a little background here on the Midland women's flag football team from their head coach.
Hey.
So he said the program was just looking for direction. They didn't want to end flag football, and so they reached out, and he said yes. He said the girls are incredible. Their leadership at Midland loves it. Great exposure for the girls. Nebraska loved it. And he said that Matt Rhule was recruiting their quarterback.
It was funny. Rhule started on the Nebraska sideline to begin the game, but once it turned into a 35-0 affair, Matt Rhule just happened to mosey on over to the Midland sideline and start talking to the coaches and players. So I don't know. You call it watching, I call it tampering.
Throwing back to the Callahan era.
So good on Coach Kerwin. That's awesome. He's a good football. Do you think he's a good man? He's also a really, really good football person.
Do you think
football guy?
Do you think Midland was happy to play because they're like, thank God there's no cameras here? Thank God we're not on the Big Ten network. We don't want anybody coming and
I saw a lot of highlights on the
players
on the sportscast.
They were like I am not gassing them up. They were really good.
Somebody who got gassed up and out of pocket went after Nebraska on Saturday night.
Yeah, I thought he was a friend now.
Me too.
So Joe Klatt, last quarterback at Colorado, win a bowl game.
It's a long time ago.
Xavier Watts gets drafted.
I know.
96th overall by the Atlanta Falcons. And it was so cool to see the whole Watts family. His dad, Jeff, and his mom, an X-Man from growing from a young man who came in this studio 6-7 years ago to tell, a story. And it's got, it's an interesting story of his dad moved the family from Minneapolis, confined to a wheelchair. Great, great, great people. And his career that turned out at Notre Dame. So he gets drafted. The mention that he's from Omaha. Shout out OPS. 2 guys get drafted out of OPS schools. Marcus Siegel goes in the 6th round from Omaha North. Xavier Watts goes from Omaha Burke. Ironically, the last 2 schools that have won state titles in high school football in this state. So 2 OPS guys get drafted. But Watts gets drafted, and all of a sudden Joe Klatt loses his mind. And he goes after Nebraska. After Nebraska letting him get away. I mean, that came out of nowhere.
What was the point?
I don't know. He maybe was upset all day about the Shadur stuff, that he took this opportunity to just crack on Nebraska. And it wasn't on Rhule. It was letting a guy like this get away. I mean, Rhule wasn't even here when X-Man was, playing high school football.
He's a Fox guy. He covers the Big Ten. He covers these teams. I don't know what the point of.
That's why he was so out of pocket and caught people off guard is Klatt was getting ticked off all weekend, I think because of the Colorado stuff in Shadur.
Sure.
That he took this opportunity. He went swinging about Nebraska. Nebraska's not going to get anywhere if they let guys like this get out of the state. Well, let me tell you, Joel, and I like Joel, and he's been good to the show.
Sure, and then he doubled
times
down.
That we've asked. In this case, yes, an Omaha product went elsewhere. You know what? Back in the 90s, there were a lot of Omaha products that went to Notre Dame, and Nebraska kept guys in state, and they still did pretty well.
Yeah.
In this case, you got to know the story. Nebraska actually under Scott Frost, and there were other things to overcome. But in terms of position, Nebraska wanted X-Man as a defensive back. He wanted to play wide receiver. Notre Dame allowed him to play wide receiver, and then one of the best decisions he ever made was flipping over to the other side of the ball. And now he's going to get paid to play, and he just had an incredible last 2 years in the college game. This is how this recruiting went. Notre Dame out-recruited Nebraska. Brian Kelly. And that's who the head coach was at Notre Dame when X-Man said, yes, I'm coming to Notre Dame. I mean, Brian Kelly went to Burke and would go in the weight room, watch him lift weights.
Yeah.
Okay? Notre Dame aggressively recruited Xavier Watts. They beat Nebraska. I think if Nebraska had to do it over again, I think they would have had a different person as the lead on his recruitment, but also not just taking for granted, hey, we're recruiting Omaha Burke. You got Paul Lamont, who's the head coach. You can't screw around with Coach.
Mm-mm.
Hey, we got Chris Hickman and we got Nick Henrich. We'll recruit him the same way. Well, not everybody's created the same. And you weren't dealing with Notre Dame. You had an in with those two on going to Nebraska.
Yeah.
And Nebraska did a good job of recruiting them. I think they should have been more aggressive. But at the end of the day, it's Notre Dame compared to Nebraska. And Notre Dame out-recruited Nebraska. There's no other ulterior motive. Nebraska recruited him Just Notre Dame did a better job of somebody they identified and made a priority, and they went all in to get him. That's what I can't understand. And Klatt probably doesn't know the intimate details of this recruitment, but for him to attack Nebraska like that, I have to have some speaks with some people. And again, it wasn't a shot at Rule. No, it was a shot at Nebraska and why Nebraska has failed. But you got to learn the facts before you start spouting off this. Instead of using that, why don't you say, you know what? Cool that a young man from Omaha went to Notre Dame, became one of the best defensive players the last 2 years, and now is getting his chance to play. And also say, you know what? I got football players in Nebraska. Not all of them go to Nebraska. Look at Nebraska's going to have a quarterback at the Elite 11 in Los Angeles this summer in Jet Tomala. It was so weird. It was really, really weird from a guy who has been pretty pro Nebraska for a while.
I just don't understand.
They dropped the whole knowledge comment.
Just the whole negativity around the entirety of that draft and like how many missteps they had, even dating back to the Shador, deal, and them taking the moment away from Cam Ward. And every time Cam Ward came on the screen, it felt like they were talking about Shador. And this is just another case in point where it's Xavier Watts' moment and he gets drafted and he's going to Atlanta, and you should be telling the Falcons fans about what they're getting and how excited they should be and whatnot, and maybe some of the things he needs to work on and give actual analysis. No. We're sitting here saying, "Oh my God, this college has fallen off. What a damn shit." I mean, it made no sense. There was another point too. Right after Shador got drafted, they're talking about Shador. They're yelling about 50 years in the NFL. They have no clue how to scout quarterback. This league is absolutely clueless. 2 guys got drafted during that time. The Colts made a pick and the Dolphins made a pick. 2 kids' dreams came true in that moment. And what were we broadcasting? We were broadcasting Mel Kiper Jr. screaming at Reese Davis and Louis Riddick about a guy that got picked 8 picks ago. I mean, it's a joke. Like, I want a little bit of negativity in terms of like evaluating the prospects, but if we're just absolutely ignoring picks and whatnot so we can get other agendas in, what are we doing as broadcasters? Yeah. What are we doing?
As sports media had a rough weekend when it comes to the draft. Mm-hmm. I mean, his rant would have been applicable if it was Harrison Phillips and Noah Fant getting drafted. But in this case, Frost actually, he wanted him to play the position that he's playing in the NFL. He was at wide receiver. Man, that Burt team was really, really good. The other won the state title. Yeah. It's the last 2 guys. The last 2 teams that have won state titles out of OPS schools, North in 17 and then Burke in 18. I don't know if we'll see that again, but cool for OPS.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. 2 guys drafted. Marcus Siegel kind of flies under the radar until he got to Kansas State. He was a baller this past year at Kansas State. I'm so happy that he got drafted because his entire career, because he played on a team that was full of stars at North, but he was like one of the best players. Mm-hmm. But very, like people talk about him. I'm glad that he's getting his flowers for getting drafted. All right. Joel Klatt, that'll be interesting this summer.
I just don't get it. I don't understand what
Joel,
the point.
You were a friend.
Just what were you trying to accomplish? Like, what were you trying to prove?
I think.
What is he? Like, seriously, what's the end goal?
I think he was upset about all the Shador stuff, and it was teed up perfectly that a kid from Omaha Burke High School got drafted, and he didn't go to Nebraska. He went to Notre Dame.
We should have Jay Moore on to tell us about how they cleared the student section on a senior day.
The hate that Nebraska was getting, or the hate that Shador was getting on Twitter, wasn't just Nebraska. Okay, everybody was teeing off on Shador, and you know what? When you present yourself that way and you have what he has and you talk the way he talked and you told teams that you didn't want them to draft him and you didn't take the evaluation process seriously, you should get you should get made fun of. You should get talked about.
Thanks for putting up with us. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6 again. Please pay attention. Could be a round of severe storms that are going to be in the area this afternoon. And we'll have much more to talk about. Another night of playoff hockey and NBA. And, of course, 120 days away from the start of the season. For Matt, for Jimmy, I'm Gary. Rest in peace, Coach Olsen. 1 of 1. Crossovers coming up next.